Chapter 595. Here for your death 1. The strongest disciple of the Hong immortal sect, Hong Tianda. The second strongest disciple of the Hong immortal sect, Piao Lingxue. The two of them and the mountain sects behind them. After Hong Tianda tossed the space ring to Wang Xian, he did not leave. Standing quietly, he cast a brief glance at Ao Shuwen. No words from him, just a burly figure standing over there. Yet his attitude was apparent. Noticing such a situation, the disciples of MT Lung gasped hard with trepidation in their eyes. Both Tong Xioping and Lin Xingzhan were stupefied as they looked dumbfoundedly at the MT Guman disciples and the soundless Hong Tianda. The burly figure had brought about immense oppression to them. The disciples from MT Xingyun and MT Wu behind swallowed their saliva without knowing. How could they go against the top two mountain sects of the Hong immortal sect? This is a joke. Ao Shuwen clenched his fists as he gradually turned to Wang Xian. It was unexpected to him that this Dragon King was actually acquainted with Piao Lingxue and Hong Tianda. They had even stepped forward to help him. This was something that caught him off guard. Phew. Since senior brother Hong Tianda and senior sister Piao Lingxue are standing in defense of MT Fengyu and the Dragon King, MT Lung will stop making things difficult for them. We need to give face to our senior brother and sister. Ao Shuwen took a deep breath and spoke in a low voice. In the face of Piao Lingxue, he dared to be tough, and even so with Hong Tianda. But facing both of them together at the same time was something Ao Shuwen would not dare to try. All the more, the MT Lung disciples following behind dared not utter a word. At this moment, even the genius disciples who were as strong as Su Fa dared not say anything in front of them. Even Su Fa would not dare to provoke them. Haha, Ao Shuwen, MT Lung, and a few of you will not make things difficult for us. Just as Ao Shuwen's voice trailed off, Wang Xian quirked his lips and revealed a smirk. What do you mean by making things difficult? Let's have a fight then. As he said, he swept his gaze across those people coldly. Her? Ao Shuwen and the rest of the people beside him threw Wang Xian razor-sharp and icy cold gazes. He Dragon King? If not for senior brother Hong Tianda and senior sister Piao Lingxue, you'd be lying here dead today, said Su Fa to Wang Xian impassively. Brat, have you found your alchemy shop? Lin Xingzhan and Tong Xioping sneered while fixing their eyes on Wang Xian. Ao Shuwen craned his head slightly as he gazed coldly at Wang Xian with aloofness in his eyes. Wang Xian took a brief look at them before he walked towards the back with a smile. He came to a spot 200 meters away. Everyone stared at him with quizzical looks. What is the Dragon King trying to do? Handsome Dragon King, what are you doing? Some of the disciples from other mountain sects and MT Shui asked in surprise. I'm drawing this ground as the arena. Ao Shuwen, the four fellows behind you, and you come over. Wang Xian stretched out his hand and pointed to 6 people, including Ao Shuwen. Wang Xian's act swept everyone with surprise. Drawing the ground as the arena? Challenging senior brother Ao Shuwen, Tong Xioping, Lin Xingzhan, Su Fa, Feng Haoxi, Mingziu? What is he doing? Is he out of his mind? Digging his own grave? Getting in the arena means that killings are allowed. He actually dared to draw an arena for senior brother Ao Shuwen and the rest. He must be either out of his mind or he's lost his senses. Darn, this fucking Dragon King is the most arrogant fellow I have ever seen. His strength is, at most, ranked top 10. Now he's actually issued a challenge to senior brother Ao Shuwen and the rest. Any one of the senior brothers could easily deal with him, let alone senior brother Ao Shuwen. The surrounding mountain sect's disciples were startled when they witnessed Wang Xian's actions. Immediately, they began discussing among themselves. The Dragon King was challenging 6 people, including senior brother Ao Shuwen. He was a budding realm expert in the top 3 disciples of the Hong immortal sect. Not only did the surrounding disciples freeze, but even Ao Shuwen and Su Fa, whose names were called out, were stunned. Challenging us? A taunting look surfaced on Su Fei's face as he fixed his eyes on Wang Xian. Senior brother Ao Shuwen doesn't even have to strike. I could easily cripple you alone. Since you're asking for your death, I'll give it to you. As he spoke, he turned to Piaoling Xue and Hong Tianda at the side. Senior brother Hong Tianda, senior sister Piaoling Xue, he taunted us first, not that we're making things difficult for him. The deadpan Piaoling Xue slowly nodded. Fate determines who shall be killed in arena matches. Hong Tianda spat out the words without emotion. Fate determines who shall be killed in arena matches. The rules stated so, but very few people would kill each other in the arena. That's right. Fate determines who shall be killed in arena matches. Ao Shuwen drew his lips slowly as he looked at Wang Xian. With a tinge of ridicule in his eyes, he said, "You're still not worthy of being my opponent." That's right. You are not worthy to fight with Brother Ao. Just leaving it to me will do. Lin Xingjian lifted his head and yelled at Wang Xian.
Haha, me too.
Let me test the strength of the Dragon King and see how much he has got for him to be so arrogant. Tong Xioping burst out a clap of laughter as he took 2 steps forward. 6 of you just came forward together. Nice. I can kill a nest of you in 1 shot. Wang Xian stared at the 6 of them coldly. Wang Xian, stop. At this time, an anxious voice cut through the air from the sky. Mentor Yu's figure flew over. She was in a somewhat pitiful state when she stared at Wang Xian and yelled, "Withdraw your arena and fight with them. The arena has already been set up. How can you withdraw it?" Haha, Shuwen, Su Fa, go on. Kill that brazen brat of MT Fingyu for me. Another shrill sound came from the sky. With a similar pitiful look, Mentor Lung swept her cold gaze at Mentor Yu and Wang Xian. Her lips were drawn with murderous intent. And don't worry. Let us handle this. Ao Shuwen looked at Mentor Lung and replied with a smile. No, Wang Xian. Your strength. Mentor Yu, who came to Wang Xian, was looking worried as she tried to persuade Wang Xian once again. Mentor Yu, don't worry. Wang Xian shook his head at Mentor Yu. This is bad. Great senior sister. The handsome master is issuing a challenge to Ao Shuwen and the rest. If they really fight. The rest of the female disciples of MT Shui revealed a concerned look as they shouted to Piaoling Xue with tender voices. Rest assured, he's the master of the art of water refining. Without the slightest worry, Piaoling Xue cast her gaze to the MT Shui disciples and assured them in a soft voice. Art of water refining, oh yes. Handsome master possesses the art of water refining. Hey, wait. So his strength. These female disciples were slightly stunned as shocked looks slowly surfaced on their faces. The proficiency in art of water refining had something to do with the cultivator's strength. To become a master, his strength should be at least at budding realm. At the thought of this, the female disciples of MT Shui revealed more shocked looks. Chapter 596. Here for your death, 2. Wang Xian, you are a match for Ao Shuwen and his group. Come, let's go back. Mentor Yu frowned while looking at Wang Xian. Clearly, she didn't believe he would be a match for Ao Shuwen and the other 5 youths. On the other end, a flash of ruthlessness beamed in the eyes of Mentor Lung upon seeing how flustered Mentor Yu was. She looked to Ao Shuwen and made a hidden gesture. So Shuwen nodded his head, looked towards Su Fa, Tong Xiuwen and the rest, and said, "Go. Let him remain here forever." A cold and ruthless voice came from Ao Shuwen. He didn't make a move himself and simply stared harshly from the side. A Dragon King still wasn't deserving of him taking action personally. All right, senior brother Ao. I'll be able to kill that brat myself. Su Fa nodded his head and bloodlust gleamed in his eyes. Finish him together, so nothing could go wrong. We cannot let anyone hear him admitting his defeat. Mentor Lung remarked from the sideline. Yes, Mentor Lung. After receiving the orders from Mentor Lung and Ao Shuwen, killing intent flashed in the eyes of Su Fa, Tong Xiuwen, and the rest. They moved and appeared before Wang Xian instantly. The 5 of them stood there and glared harshly at Wang Xian.
Come.
I'm going to slay the dragon today. Hee hee. Ruthlessness gleamed in the eyes of Su Fa as he looked down on Wang Xian. Mentor Yu, move away right now. Are you choosing to break the rules? Mentor Lung shrieked with a smile. Mentor Yu, don't worry. Wang Xian looked at Mentor Yu, who was right beside him. He moved the space ring on his finger and a huge sword appeared in the next instant. The huge sword was 2 meters long, half a meter wide, had a bulging blade, and was wrapped in a white cloth. Let me test out your sword. Wang Xian rested the huge sword on his shoulders, looked at Hong Tianda, and spoke with a smile.
Ha!
Mentor Yu was taken aback as she looked at the space ring on Wang Xian's finger and, eventually, at the huge sword. This? She was pleasantly surprised and hesitated for a moment before retreating 100 meters away. Hong Tianda wasn't pleased to see Wang Xian taking out his sword. This was something he had looked forward to, and yet could only have it the next day. Senior brother Hong, that is? When Piaoling Xue saw the huge sword in Wang Xian's hand, doubt surfaced in her mind as she asked Hong Tianda softly.
Yeah.
After a single word, he stopped.
Hee hee.
It would appear that he didn't show senior brother Hong any face either. At the thought of Hong Tianda tossing a space ring to Wang Xian previously, Piaoling Xue grinned. Hong Tianda didn't respond to her. Dragon King, you don't have to worry. I'll be enough to handle you, and I'll be the only one attacking. When Su Fa saw Wang Xian retrieving the huge sword, he grinned and continued. Do you think you will be as incredible as senior brother Hong Tianda just because you are using his sword? In that case, senior brother Su Fa, you can go first. We will stay around him and prevent him from admitting his defeat. Tong Xiuwen and the rest spoke with a smile and had no regard for Wang Xian at all. Go! Yu Qianmei, I'll show you how the most outstanding disciple of MT Fengyu shall fall. Mentor Lung stared at Mentor Yu with ecstasy. Mentor Yu didn't respond to her taunts and simply stood by the side and watched. Aren't you coming too? Oh well, let me collect some interest from the other 5 first. Wang Xian lowered the huge sword to the ground and looked across the 5 of them before him. Just another brat that is going to die soon. Su Fa stared at Wang Xian with smiles and drew his long sword slowly. The other 4 also drew their swords. The next moment, they swung their swords and formed an isolation ring. Wang. A sword cloud was formed in the sky, and streams of water shrouded an area that spanned over 1,000 meters. Someone is going to lose his life here. Sealing the entire space? In other words, even if one were to admit his defeat, no one outside the space could hear. SSS. It has been several months since a disciple of the Hong Immortal Sect lost his life in an arena match. It seems like someone is going down today. The Dragon King is almost certain to die. What gives him the guts to challenge Su Fa, Tong Xiuwen, and the other 4 disciples? His brain must be wrecked. That's simply courting his own death. Boorish fellow. He's too rash. When the surrounding disciples witnessed what happened, they exclaimed and discussed softly among themselves. Several higher management members of the Hong Immortal Sect frowned slightly. They looked at the region shrouded in a water veil, but didn't say a word. Once one got into an arena, he had to bear the consequences. Haha. Yu Qianmei, take a look with your own eyes. Witness how the most outstanding disciple of MT Fengyu is killed right before you. Mentor Lung was exhilarated and appeared hideous, while laughing hysterically. Piaoling Xue looked plainly across Mentor Lung, and her lips curved into a smirk. Hong Tianda looked across the group, and his eyes beamed with contempt. I'm going to slaughter you today. At this moment, a blinding light shot out from Su Fa's eyes. He shouted, waved his arm, and a 10-meter-long by 3-meter-wide water sword was formed instantly. The water sword lunged towards Wang Xian at incredible speed. When the crowd saw it, they were astonished. This is sword explosion. It's so quick and fast. He formed a 10-meter-long sword in the blink of an eye. SSS. It's not a fluke that he is ranked 5th among disciples in the Hong Immortal Sect. He's too strong. He won't need the help from the other 4 at all. Senior brother Su Fa could easily kill the Dragon King by himself. The sudden explosion of the attack shocked the surrounding disciples. They were all elite disciples of the Hong Immortal Sect. With a single look, they were able to tell the horrifying strength Su Fa had displayed. Great. Not too bad. Mentor Lung was satisfied with what she saw as she smirked. On the other hand, Mentor Yu was anxious and stared fervently at the battle. Sword explosion. Seeing the huge water sword charging towards him, Wang Xian revealed a cold smirk. He moved his arm, and the white cloth that covered the serpent sword exploded away, revealing the real appearance of the sword. The sword had an entirely black body and had terrifying scale stones embedded in it. The entire serpent sword resembled a monster. Sword explosion. Wang Xian used the same attack, and a water sword was formed instantly. The water sword was exceptionally gruesome and had identical looks to the serpent in his hand. In an instant, the water sword grew to over 30 meters. Explode. The moment the water sword was formed, Su Fa shouted. That huge 10-meter water sword exploded into countless small swords as they flew towards Wang Xian. Explode! Wang Xian shouted coldly.
Grr.
Just as his voice sounded, that huge water serpent sword also exploded. In addition to the explosion, a terrifying growl reverberated across. Soon after, ravaging serpent sword shot towards Su Fa and the other 4 youths who had their arms crossed and were watching from the side. What? How can this be possible?
Shit.
The Dragon King is terrifyingly strong. When the 30-meter serpent sword was formed with water energy and exploded, the surrounding crowd could feel a chill running down their spines. At that instant, they were horrified. Chapter 597. 5 Kills. Great terror and calamity had descended. The place within a radius of 1,000 meters was completely shrouded by water, and sword cloud battle techniques displayed by Tong Xiuping, Lin Xingzhan, Feng Haoxi, Ming Ziyu. None of the sounds could travel outside. Yet, the moment when the horrifying 30-meter sword explosion erupted, a terrifying growl was heard. All the people outside were aghast. That growl and that scary explosion were heard clearly by all of them, even with the water veil blocking in between them. As soon as the explosion happened, the scary sword shaped itself into a ferocious beast, easily devouring the sword explosion released by Su Fa. Terrifying, monstrous long swords charged at Su Fa and the remaining 4 people. The quartet who were watching Su Fa and Wang Xian fighting with ease felt their hair stand immediately. Oh no! They let out a scream of horror while they gathered an immense amount of water energy straight away. Water shield! Water shield! Several of them hurriedly shouted as they looked at the sword explosion attacks shrouding over their heads in consternation. How is this possible? Su Fa paled instantly as films of cold sweat broke out on his forehead while the long sword stood in front of him. Thick streams of water current wrapped around them. There was no way to hide, no means to hide. The sword explosion encompassed an area that was too large for them to dodge, given their speed. Since they could not dodge in time, they could only put up their defense. What a terrifying sword explosion! How can this be so domineering? The hearts of the other Mountain Sect's disciples outside skipped a beat as they staggered back involuntarily. The strength of the Dragon King. Every one of them put on a mixed expression. When they saw the sword explosion encompassing 1,000 meters, their bodies shivered. Oh no! Oh no, no! At this time, Ao Shuwen and Mentor Lung, who were waiting for Su Fa and the rest to teach Dragon King a lesson, were aghast. Sensing the energy inside, their eyes surged with horror. Budding Realm Strength, Level 12 Spiritual Equipment. A shrill voice was heard from Mentor Lung, and it struck everyone with a stun. Budding Realm Strength. Level 12 Spiritual Equipment. All the disciples murmured, exhibiting a startled look. There were only 3 budding realm disciples in the entire Dahong immortal sect. Now, another one had appeared unexpectedly. On top of that, he was very young. Boom. At this moment, the sword explosion hit upon the defense of Su Fa and the remaining 4. The sword explosion enveloped them while a booming sound caused by the domineering power was heard. The earth shook. The members of higher management, Mentor Yu, Piaoling Xue, and the rest, revealed a shocked look. Stop. Stop. At this time, screams were heard from afar. 5 figures rode over on their swords.
Shit.
I hope they're all right. 5 of them came to the area above the explosion, wearing a different look while fixing their eyes below. The sword explosion disappeared, and the water veil dissipated. A figure was still standing there, holding one scary colossal sword in the center. All of them quickly took a look at the 5 pits. Gone? Nothing is left? That's odd. Every pit has a sword lying in it. But where's Su Fa and Tong Xiuping? Only the swords are left? They have been eradicated by the attacks such that not even a body is left. Eradicated? Everyone was genuinely shocked as they revealed a stunned look in their eyes. You actually killed them all. Mentor Lung blurted out a sharp, shrill cry as she stared at Wang Xian with murderous eyes. Xiuping. Xingzhan. The mentors of MT Xingyun and MT Wu had a drastic change in their expressions. Mentors of Feng Haoxi and Ming Ziyu's faces were darkened instantly too. They are all dead. Dragon King actually slayed 5 disciples who were in the top 20. He's really a supreme talent. Gosh, 5 supreme talents were instantly killed without any ashes left. This is too cruel. 5 top 20 supreme talents of Dahong Immortal Sect were killed by a single move. The strength of the Dragon King is simply too terrifying. All it took was one move. Just one move. All the surrounding disciples let out horrified exclamations. The female disciples from MT Shui were more stunned than ever. They watched the young man in the arena, holding a huge sword as their hearts raced frantically. How handsome he is. Super dashing. Dragon King, you're a budding realm expert, and yet, you challenged the 5 of them. What motives do you have? You're one class above them, and you killed the outstanding disciples of Dahong Immortal Sect on purpose. Bellows of anger rang in everyone's ears as Mentor Lung and the mentors of Lin Xingzhan and Tong Xiuping stared at Wang Xian furiously. Great Elder, Second Great Elder. The Dragon King of MT Fengyu deliberately concealed his cultivation level and killed our outstanding disciples of Dahong Immortal Sect. His sin. Mentor Lung screamed with a malevolent expression when she saw the elders who flew in and stood in the air. MT Fengyu actually recruited an outstanding disciple, an elite disciple of the budding realm. He had even slain one of the outstanding disciples of MT Lung, which agitated her even more. That young man of MT Fengyu was supposed to be dead instead. Haha, glad that you're fine. However, before Mentor Lung could even complete her statement, that few elders in the elder chuckled. There were no signs of rage on their faces even though the supreme talents of Dahong Immortal Sect had been killed. Instead, they looked elated. Mentor Lung's complaint was stuck in the air as she looked on with shock. The Dragon King is actually the master who is unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment, a disciple of Dahong Immortal Sect. If not for Elder Mu, we wouldn't have known about it. An old man stared at Wang Xian with admiration. Not bad, not bad. You're the most dazzling master at such a young age. A budding realm expert. Your future will be bright. As the old man spoke, he walked to Wang Xian. Another 4 elders also walked over with beaming faces. In times like this, we're lucky to have such outstanding disciples in Dahong Immortal Sect. If not for the 2 sect leaders still being in the Yongchang Cauldron, they would like to meet you in person. The 5 voices of the elders resounded through the entire spiritual tea session. What they said stunned all the people completely, in particular Mentor Lung and the rest of the mentors. They widened their eyes with shocked looks on their faces. Master who is unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment. The sect leaders want to meet him in person? The most dazzling master of Yongchang? The disciples of mountain sects were going dizzy as the 5 elders were the real 5 top-notch men in the entire Yongchang immortal sect. From the great elder to second great elder, all the way to 5 great elders. When the sect leader was not around, the 5 of them would decide all the matters that happened in the entire Dahong immortal sect. Yet, at this moment, 5 elders actually came together, staring at the Dragon King with fervent eyes. That look was almost akin to those female disciples of Mt. Shui. Chapter 598. Becoming an Elder. The most dazzling master in Yongchang City, and the only existence that is unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment. There's only one such person in the rumors circulating lately. He's that master in Yongchang City. Moreover, some female disciples from Mt. Shui addressed him as the handsome master at the very beginning of his rise to fame. SSS, rumor has it that the most demon-like talent in Yongchang City is both an alchemist master and a blacksmith master. Who would have thought that the Dragon King is that master who is unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment? A disciple exclaimed loudly. His eyes widened and stared at Wang Xian with disbelief.
What?
The Dragon King is the hottest and most famous master in Yongchang City recently? When the surrounding disciples from various mountain sects heard that disciple, they were astonished and stared blankly into the field. Although the immortal sect didn't set clear rules that higher realm disciples were restricted from challenging lower realm disciples and murdering them on purpose, all the disciples still knew clearly. When fighting in the arena, if there's a huge difference in strength, one party couldn't simply kill the other party. Otherwise, he would have broken the unwritten rule. Yet, the Dragon King had killed 5 supreme talents of Dahong immortal sect with a single move. Clearly, the Dragon King had broken the unwritten rule. If the higher management of the immortal sect was to pursue the matter, the Dragon King would have to bear the consequences. However, the current situation was clear that this matter would be shall decide after the 5 elders had all arrived. As compared to a disciple whose reputation as an alchemist master and blacksmith master was known throughout Yongchang world, Su Fa, Tong Xiuping and the other youths were no longer important, even if they were ranked among the top 20 supreme talents. Elder Mu. Elders. Wang Xian identified one of the elders to be that old man from the Mu family. Ha! Master Dragon King, the other elders have heard about what you are capable of and would like to see you in person. If you have the time, come to the Elders' Pavilion for a chat. Elder Mu smiled and spoke to Wang Xian. Sure, no problem. Wang Xian nodded his head. He looked in the direction where Hong Tianda was, tossed the huge sword across, and said, Remember to send me the 50,000 spiritual stones tomorrow. All right, I'll send them over tomorrow. Hong Tianda stared at the huge sword in his hands fervently and was clearly loving the sword. Elders, let's go. Wang Xian turned his gaze back to the 5 elders and spoke with a smile.
Sure.
We have something to discuss with the Dragon King too. The old man in the middle smiled satisfactorily at Wang Xian. The next moment, they took flight and hovered in the air. A piece of cloud appeared below Wang Xian's legs. Following closely behind the elders, Wang Xian flew towards the main peak of Dahong immortal sect. SSS. Even the Great Elder is addressing him as the Dragon King and a master. This is truly shocking. The Elder's attitude towards him. That's simply a little overboard. The 5 elders have seen and treated him as though they are at the same level. One could even argue that they are acting deferentially. A master that is unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment is indeed deserving of such treatment. The matter of Su Fa, Tong Xiuping and the rest being killed would likely be shelled away too. The surrounding disciples were astonished as they stared blankly at the disappearing figure. They took a deep breath. Who would have expected the Dragon King to possess such an insane level of strength? Who would have expected the Dragon King to be the hottest and most famous master that is unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment in Yongchang City recently? No one would have linked them together. They looked towards senior brother Hong Tianda and felt a little lost. Clearly, senior brother Hong Tianda had requested that the Dragon King modify this seemingly familiar huge sword. As compared to the strength of the sword held by the Tiani swordsman previously, the current sword was a lot more terrifying. The master in Yongchang City is him. It's actually him. At this moment, Ao Shuwen looked exceptionally bitter and embarrassed. The 4 disciples that followed him were killed. However, the other party was the hottest and most famous alchemist master and blacksmith master currently.
Puff.
However, at the thought of Master Xuanhua and Master Qingming visiting his family last night, he took a deep breath and ruthlessness beamed in his eyes. Your strength is something I had not expected. However, you shouldn't have been acting so cockily and haughtily. You have offended too many people. A creepy smirk appeared on Ao Shuwen. He held the long sword in his hand tightly and left. The surrounding crowd of disciples from MT Fengyu were completely dumbfounded. Even Mentor Yu stood there in shock, not moving an inch. She had not expected the young man who she had saved previously to be so terrifyingly talented. Even her husband, who once stood at the top of Dahong Immortal Sect, wasn't a match for him in terms of talents. Yulinger looked mindlessly at the sky and recalled the moment she first met this young man. A myriad of emotions welled up within her. Looking at the group of female disciples from MT Shui discussing fervently, she lowered her head gradually. Master Wang Xian, with your current strength, you would be more than capable of becoming an elder in Dahong Immortal Sect. I wonder if you have this intention? The old man in the middle of the group asked Wang Xian the moment they landed at the Elder's Pavilion located in the middle of the majestic main peak. Elder? I wouldn't mind. My current focus is still on refining spiritual equipment and elixirs. Feeling the gazes from the 5 elders, Wang Xian chuckled. In that case, let us arrange for it. With your strength, it wouldn't be appropriate for you to remain as a disciple. The 5 of us can grant you the status of an elder, so you can enjoy the benefits and authority of an elder. The old man in the middle said to Wang Xian directly. All right. In that case, I have to thank various elders for the opportunity. Wang Xian chuckled. The truth was he wasn't really interested in the status of an elder. The 5 elders could also tell that Wang Xian wasn't particularly interested in the status of an elder. However, they didn't say a word. With his unparalleled skills in refining elixir pills and spiritual equipment, the status of elder in Dahong Immortal Sect was indeed insignificant. In Yongchang world, strength dictated everything. Master Wang, other than inviting you to become an elder of the Immortal Sect, we have another objective for inviting you over. The old man in the middle gestured to Wang Xian before heading into the Elder's Pavilion. It's coming. Upon hearing the old man, Wang Xian knew that the real objective was coming. The Yongchang world was different from the outside world. In this place, 3 immortal sects controlled the entire Yongchang world. Moreover, the 3 immortal sects weren't competitors. As a result, no matter how talented one was, the immortal sect might not have paid a lot more attention to him. No matter how talented one was, he was still part of Yongchang world and would be ruled by the immortal sects. However, Wang Xian was a little different. He could bring the Dahong Immortal Sect huge benefits. Elders, feel free to speak. If it's something I can do, I'll definitely agree. Wang Xian spoke directly. I believe it's clear that it's about refining elixir pills and spiritual equipment. Master has an extremely high success rate. Now that the Immortal Sect is preparing to refine a batch of elixir pills and spiritual equipment, we would like to invite Master Wang to be in charge. I wonder what your stance on this is? The old man in the middle said directly.
Huh?
In charge of refining elixir pills and spiritual equipment. Wang Xian's eyes beamed with excitement. We can prepare some assistance tools from Master Wang to increase the success rate of your art of water refining. Moreover, there would also be a sum of remuneration. Chapter 599. Still alive. What about the remuneration? How do we go about calculating it? Wang Xian asked the 5 elders up front. It was a golden opportunity to Wang Xian, refining spiritual equipment and elixir pills for an immortal sect. If the remuneration was fairly decent, not only would he be able to promote his status to that of an immortal, he would also be able to provide the dragon sect members with large amounts of elixir pills. Master Wang, I'm sure your success rate for refining level 5 elixir pills has reached between 70 to 8%. As for level 6 pills, I'm sure it's at least 60%. The elder standing in the middle rambled on as he spoke to Wang Xian. Yep, more or less. Wang Xian nodded emotionlessly. What a marvel! Even a Grand Master would pale in comparison. Even though the quintet had been mentally prepared for the answer, they could not help but marvel upon hearing the confirmation. 3 portions of elixir pills, of which the immortal sect will get 8 pills. As for the spiritual equipment, it'll be 1.5 portions. With that, help the immortal sect refine elixir pills and spiritual equipment on a large scale. What do you say? The elder standing in the middle asked Wang Xian after some hesitation. 8 pills for 3 portions. Wang Xian frowned. To him, this remuneration was no less lucrative. But the quantity as required by the Dahong immoral sect was relatively larger, which thus would definitely render this deal worthwhile. Nonetheless, he could not agree to it easily. To a master, offering 8 pills using 3 portions was no doubt miserly, so much so that it was almost impossible. Master Wang, we can have a set of aid equipment meant for the art of water refining prepared for you. This is a set of spiritual equipment assembled using 5 level 12 spiritual liquid balls. It'll help to increase the success rate greatly. So much so that, with this set of aid equipment, you can try your hand at refining level 7 elixir pills and level 12 spiritual equipment. The centermost elder persuaded Wang Xian upon sensing his hesitation. Furthermore, to top it off, the Yongchang cauldron will begin to manifest in another month's time. Master Wang can then help himself directly to one of our internal headcounts within the Dahong immortal sect. The elder promised yet another benefit. Spiritual equipment using 5 level 12 spiritual liquid balls? The beginning of the Yongchang cauldron? Wang Xian asked with a puzzled look, albeit with a glint flashing across his eyes. He continued to ask in bewilderment, what's the beginning of the Yongchang cauldron's manifestation? Haha, perhaps Master Wang is not aware given your young age. There's actually room within the Yongchang cauldron, which is sacred grounds for cultivation. The spiritual energy within it is tens of times more than what's found outside. A day of cultivation would equate to 1 or 2 months of the same while one is outside. The Yongchang cauldron will only open up for manifestation once every 50 years. This time, though, due to unique circumstances, it's opening up in advance. Of our 3 immortal sects, there's only 1 spot each which is reserved internally. As for the remaining 10 spots, they'll be up for grabs through one's capabilities. The elder elaborated. Spiritual energy with a concentration of tens of times. Wang Xian shrieked in surprise. Thereafter, he nodded with some pretense of hesitation. All right, I'll agree to it. Great. In that case, let's see when you are available, Master Wang. I'll have my disciples do the customization for you before proceeding to build you a summit for cultivation. The quintet wasted no time in asking as their eyes shimmered with excitement. 5 days from now, I want to complete the refinement of all the spiritual equipment in my shop. Wang Xian replied. Sure, Master Wang. 5 days from now, come over to the main summit. Today, we'll make an announcement and declare that Dragon King Wang Xian has ascended to become an elder of Dahong Immortal Sect. The quintet responded with a laugh. In that case, I'll take my leave now, elders. Wang Xian nodded with a smile before waving at the elders. Sure. The quintet nodded back as they watched Wang Xian take his leave. I really wonder where such a wicked genius comes from, one of the elders commented. Where else? Don't tell me he is dropped from the sky? It's likely that this Dragon King's been handed some legacy and born with defying talents. After sustaining injuries in an accident, he ended up at Mt. Fingyu by fate. This can be the only possibility, which is good news for us in the Hong Immortal Sect. By having him refine elixir pills and spiritual equipment for us, we'll get to save big on our materials. As they watched Wang Xian's silhouette from the back, the quintet chatted in laughter. While the Dahong Immortal Sect had not done a check on the background of this junior Dragon King, his sudden appearance and fast ascension was something they paid no attention to either. Since he had made his appearance in the world of Yongchang, then he must belong here. For outsiders can never make their way in, even in the case of immortals. Under the defense of the Spirit Array, those who try to barge their way into Yongchang are almost guaranteed to fail. However, what they did not know was that the current Spirit Array could no longer compare with that of the past. The Yongchang Immortal Sect was located at the centermost location, at the very core of the Yongchang world. While the Dahong Immortal Sect resided on its left and the Immortal Slaying Sect on the right. The Yongchang Immortal Sect was the most capable immortal sect amongst the top trio, of which it housed more immortal experts and disciples than Dahong and Immortal Slaying Sect. When one looked across, one would see the entire Immortal Sect grounds lit up in bright red. Located atop a volcano, the area above was filled with lush inferno trees, while flaming birds overtook the skies accompanied by the flaming elves who danced their way all around. All in all, the entire place appeared like a fiery sacred ground. On the highest summit of the Yongchang Immortal Sect, which measured up to almost 10,000 meters, the volcano was spurting flames which shot up to 100 meters. This was the main summit of the Yongchang Immortal Sect. On it were numerous buildings with majestic architecture that resembled ancient divine flaming temples. This made them appear solemn, yet magnificent. The Spirit Array's defense from the Yongchang world is weakening by the day. Looks like we're running out of time. In one of the divine temples within the main summit, a dignified-looking middle-aged stood before a bed. His appearance was phantasmagorical, accentuated by the flickering red lights. Upon a closer look, one would realize that he did not come with a physical state, but rather as an illusion. But his aura was no less terrifying, even despite being a mere illusion. "Daddy, didn't you say it'd take another 1 or 2 years?" Within the room stood a teenage girl beside the illusion as she scrutinized the two who were lying on the bed with utmost curiosity. To which she continued mumbling, "To think that these two are still alive." Along with the teenage girl was another elder, who stood respectfully by the side. In mild astonishment, the elder took a glance at the bedridden duo without saying a word. "It won't take that long now, Xiao Xiao. So you know them?" The illusion of the middle-aged asked the teenage girl with a smile. "I do. How could it be otherwise? One is the sect leader of Devil Corpse Palace, amongst diabolism from the underworld outside, while the other's the sect leader of the Donghua Sacred Sect, amongst the alliance of the Orthodox sects." The teenage girl nodded. Within the underworld, they're the respective premiers of the Orthodox sects and diabolism. Of course, had it not been for that dragon sect and its dragon king, they would have been the most powerful duo within the underworld. The teenage girl commented yet again. "Premiers of the underworld? If that's the case, then we must make sure to revive them." The illusionary figure groaned as the lights on him flickered. "Daddy, given their capabilities, they're no more than mere experts within our Yongchang standing. Large amounts of level 7 elixir pills will be required should we wish to revive them. Moreover, this Emperor Qi of diabolism is a crook. Should we still save him then?" The teenage girl asked the illusionary figure in confusion. "The 9 cauldrons are descending into the real world. While the mortals of the real world are weak, they're nonetheless locals. Even if we won't have any use for their powers, we can make use of them to help us ease into the real world quickly. By treating them, It'll help Yongchang build up a channel to source information. Upon complete descent into the real world, that'll save us a lot of trouble." The illusionary figure laughed as he watched the bedridden duo with glistening eyes. The duo were on the brink of death. Namely Nye Wushuang, the sect leader of Donghua sacred sect from the alliance of the orthodox sects, as well as Emperor Qi from diabolism. The elder who had been standing by the side laughed along with the teenage girl and the guild leader of the Sacred Followers Guild. Chapter 600. Assassination in the Late Night 1. Dragon King from Mtifengyu is a budding realm expert and the most famous alchemist master and blacksmith master in Yongchang City currently. He killed Su Fa, Tong Xiuping, Lin Xingzhan, and the other 2 disciples who are all ranked in the top 20 with a single strike. How insane is that? You guys might not know about this. The spiritual tea session in the afternoon was insane. Not only did the Dragon King kill 5 top 20 disciples in a single strike, but there was also nothing left remaining of the 5 of them. My guess is that even if Ao Shuwen had been in the arena, he would likely not have been a match for the insanely strong Dragon King.
He's too demon-like.
Who would have expected the Dragon King to be so incredibly talented? Even the 5 elders are treating him as their equal. Today's Dahong Immortal Sect was livelier than before. The death of 5 top 20 disciples shocked everyone. They were talking about 5 of them. Every top 20 supreme talent was an elite genius of Dahong Immortal Sect and the subject of additional grooming. Yet, they were killed by the Dragon King today. Moreover, not even their corpses were left behind. While the people were shocked, they also felt terrified. The Dragon King was too bloodthirsty. The powerful Dragon King made disciples from the entire Immortal Sect feel respect and fear.
Dong, dong, dong.
Disciple of Mtifengyu, Wang Xian, has been promoted to the 18th Elder of Dahong Immortal Sect.
Dong, dong, dong.
Disciple of Mtifengyu, Wang Xian, has been promoted to the 18th Elder of Dahong Immortal Sect. At this moment, the bell rang from the main peak. The bell rang 9 times, and the message was repeated 3 times. The sound of the bell and the announcement reverberated throughout Dahong Immortal Sect. Everyone was shocked by it. Elder? The Dragon King has been conferred as an elder? Oh gosh. This is unbelievable. Our Dahong Immortal Sect only has 17 elders, and each of them possess immense authority. The Dragon King has now become an elder. The rise of the Dragon King can't be stopped. Even when he killed 5 supreme talents, he still wasn't affected. The youngest elder of Dahong Immortal Sect in history. The disciples were astonished, while the ringing of the bell and the announcement resounded in their ears. Even the attendants of Dahong Immortal Sect were astonished. I had not expected this to be announced in such a grand manner. Just as Wang Xian arrived at Mtifengyu, he heard the bell ring. A nonchalant smile appeared on his face. He didn't really care how precious the title of elder was in Dahong Immortal Sect. At Mtifengyu, Wang Xian greeted Mentor Yu before returning to Yongchang City. So, what if you're an elder now? You have offended too many people and all the elixir pill shops and spiritual equipment shops in Dahong Immortal Sect. Those who encroach on their interests will suffer a terrible death. Even an elder wouldn't be an exception. At this very moment, Ao Shuwen took off from Mtlung and flew towards Yongchang City. Yongchang City was huge and was where all the families of the 3 immortal sects gathered. Those who could establish powerful families were undoubtedly experts from the 3 immortal sects. The entire Yongchang City had been largely occupied by families affiliated with immortal sects. In Yongchang City, 2 kinds of business were the most lucrative: refining elixir pills and spiritual equipment. Elixir pill shops and weapon shops of various sizes reached a total of 4,000 to 5,000, and they were all controlled by various huge families. Elixir pills and spiritual equipment could be considered as the core of the interests for the entire Yongchang City. Yet, The market for elixir pills and spiritual equipment in Yongchang City had undergone huge changes over the last few days. The appearance of that master in the small shop within Yongchang City had a huge impact on the elixir pills and spiritual equipment market in Yongchang City. This had undoubtedly affected the interests of various powerful families. Ao Shuwen flew to Yongchang City and descended into a huge mansion. He looked to the grand hall, and a smirk appeared on his face. At this very moment, over 30 people had gathered in the grand hall. Every single one of them was famous throughout Yongchang City. Within the three immortal sects, all of them were part of the middle and higher management. Young Master Ao, please take a seat. Upon seeing the arrival of Ao Shuwen, an old man spoke to him plainly. Ao Shuwen nodded his head and sat towards the back. Now that everyone is here, regarding that small shop, has everyone made the necessary preparations? After approximately 20 minutes, Master Xuanhua, who was sitting at the very front, pulled a long face and spoke to the group of people within the room. Our Yuan family has prepared the spirit arrays. Our Yu family is also ready. There will definitely be a heavy downpour tonight. Two old men answered. This is some information relating to the master of that small shop. Ao Shuwen looked across the crowd without any emotions as he threw the information onto the table beside each old man.
Ha!
An elder from Da Hong Immortal Sect. Old Liang, he's the same as you. An elder of Da Hong Immortal Sect. So, what if he is an elder? TSK. As long as we kill him without leaving a trace, it won't matter. There won't be an issue as long as we do not anger our immortal sect leader. As long as he's not an immortal, it won't matter if we allied together and kill him. We will take action tonight. Budding realm expert? Unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment? He's just a brat who doesn't know the rules. An old man saw the information on the table but didn't show any changes in emotions. The interests within Yongchang City were controlled by various huge families, and these huge families formed the higher management of the three immortal sects. Their relationships were complicated. If there were only 3 to 4 families, they might not dare to assassinate the elders of Da Hong Immortal Sect. However, it wouldn't be the same if there were so many families participating this time. With so many families, they might not be able to mask the truth from the entire world. However, hiding the truth from Yongchang City was still very much achievable. Just sit back and wait for your death, Dragon King. Seeing the expressions of the group before him, Ao Shuwen's eyes beamed with ruthlessness. Whoosh! The sky was darkening gradually. At night, a heavy downpour fell in the city. The heavy downpour shrouded half of Yongchang City, prompting various shops to close for business at an earlier time. Wang Xian remained in the shop and was refining spiritual equipment rapidly. While immersed in the state of refining, he was incredibly fast. In less than 10 minutes, he would complete his refining of a piece of spiritual equipment. The dark had fallen silently, but Wang Xian wasn't getting ready to rest.
Hee.
Now that the spirit arrays have sealed this place, let's take action. At this moment outside the ship, a group of people hovered in the sky. Raindrops avoided their bodies instinctively. An old man looked down at a structure and revealed a faint smile. A budding realm expert? With our strength, he will be easily killed. It's a shame that a master that is unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment will fall here today. An old man revealed a mocking smile as he extended out his hands. He deserves death for undercutting our Saint Forge workshop and disrupting the interests of everyone. Master Xuanhua looked below him, and a tinge of hatred flashed in his eyes. TSK. After your death, I'm going to teach those families that withdrew from us a good lesson. Huge pieces of ominous clouds gathered in the sky. They spread over 100 meters, with sword glows zapping across. Chapter 601. Assassination in the Late Night, 2. Sword Cloud. Extremely daunting sword cloud. In the void, The old men stared at the place below them with icy cold eyes, while daunting water energy surged around them. Those middle-aged men and old men who cultivated inferno and metal energy did not strike. All they did was watch by the side, doing nothing. As a total of 8 sword clouds were formed, each one of them was hundreds of meters in size. 8 budding realm experts played the sword clouds at the same time. Including those budding realm experts who did not strike, they had about 15 people in total. With so many supreme-class experts killing a master who was unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment, it was a piece of cake despite the other party also being a budding realm expert. Kill. 8 elders let out a cold bellow in the sky. Within the sword clouds, long swords sprouted out all of a sudden. The long swords gave out a chilly aura in the rain. Instantly, thousands of razor-sharp swords darted out towards the shop below for a kill. Her? Oh no! At this time, Wang Xian, who was refining equipment in the room, had a drastic change in his expression. With an arm swing, he put all the surrounding materials into his space ring. What a daunting killing aura! His expression was altered slightly. With a thought, a shield appeared in his hand. On the shield was water current flowing at a rapid speed. At the same time, another long sword showed up in Wang Xian's hand. Sword Alps. He waved his arm and set up walls of sword Alps around him. At the same time, Wang Xian raised the shield in his hand. OM. The shield in his hand ballooned, wrapping him completely with water energy.
Boom.
At this time, Wang Xian sensed a round of terrifying attacks charging in his direction. It came from all sides, and he had nowhere to hide. Who dares to strike in Yongchang City? Wang Xian was slightly aghast as he fixed his eyes on the sky with a stern look. Whoosh! At this time, the entire rooftop was torn apart as frightful water swords were darting at him. The dense water swords came one after another, as though they were endless. Wang Xian saw the sword clouds that contained domineering energy in the sky were releasing the water swords. There's more than one. Cold radiance was found in Wang Xian's eyes as the water energy around him intensified. Below that stream of water energy, a layer of mustard energy was also encircling it. Boom boom. Destructive attacks kept raining down on Wang Xian. The incessant water swords lasted for 10 seconds. The entire shop was completely gone under such a daunting rain of swords while a pit that was a dozen meters deep appeared in the ground. All right, we'll need to restore this place before dawn. An elder withdrew his sword cloud and spoke impassively while taking a brief glance below. This stupid fellow is a total waste of our time, another elder commented coldly at the side. Master Xuanhua and Master Qingming revealed a smile. Going against all the elixir pill shops and blacksmith shops in Yongchang City will never come to a good ending. The crowd looked down, and they were almost certain that this wicked master, who was unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment, had totally vanished from Yongchang. They exchanged glances with one another, ready to settle the remaining matters. Let's go, an elder said without any emotions, as though killing a person here was nothing but a trivial matter to him. I'll get my men to withdraw the array. Another old man's voice was heard. Bo. However, at this time, the rain in the sky was getting heavier. But the strange thing was, not only did the rain not fall on the ground, but it was gathering in the sky. It was as though the rain was controlled by some dominating force in the surroundings. What's going on? The 15 budding realm experts sensed the eerie change of the surroundings and revealed a look of surprise. He's not dead. An old man sensed something moving below as a golden radiance shot out from his eyes. Phew! Wang Xian let out a deep breath while the level 11 shield in his hands was full of cracks. The attacks from 8 budding realm experts had almost injured him. Who are you people? Why did you try to kill me? Wang Xian swept his gaze across everyone and eventually stopped on Xuanhua and Qingming. Seeing them made him realize what was going on. He looks familiar. When Master Xuanhua and Master Qingming saw Wang Xian, they found him to be very familiar. Isn't he? Master Qingming suddenly had a flash of memory. He recalled the young man who once showed up in a St. Forge workshop, applying to be an alchemist in their shop. How is this possible? The two of them exchanged eye contact as they found disbelief in each other's eyes. The lad, which they had rejected back then, was actually an alchemy master unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment. This is a fucking joke. Oh, you're not dead? It looks like we have to go for one more round. The surrounding experts ignored Wang Xian's questions as they raised their eyebrows and spoke without any emotions. 15 budding realm experts against one was simply overkill. Since you guys refused to tell me, then go to hell. Wang Xian revealed frantic murderous intent in his eyes. This was the first time in Yongchang world that he felt such rage. Haha. Upon hearing his words, the group of 15 people grinned disdainfully. Bobo. Yet, they were surprised to find out that the rainwater gathered in the center had ballooned to 10 meters in size at this instant. Subsequently, the 10-meter water space spread out, enveloping a radius of 5 kilometers at a rapid speed. The 15 of them were horrified as they quickly propped up space within the water region. What kind of battle technique is this? Asked an expert from Yongchang Immortal Sect coldly as he studied the surrounding water region with vigilance. Not sure. It doesn't seem to have any offensive power. Bewilderment flashed in the eyes of an expert of Dahong Immortal Sect. Forget about it. Let's kill that brat first. An old man released golden radiance as he moved. The long sword in his hand immediately wielded a golden beam that struck at Wang Xian with domineering speed. Great waterfall water shockwave. Wang Xian stood in the water region, depleting his water energy within his body at a frantic rate to connect with the entire water region.
Boom.
He sensed that the entire water region was almost like his own world. He could easily control this world. Is this the power of an immortal's battle techniques? Radiance flashed in Wang Xian's eyes. Seeing the long sword that was darting towards him, he swung his arm. For a moment, destruction happened within the entire water region as though it was the end of the world. The rainwater swept toward the long sword and that old man. It was as if the entire water region was erupting with the wrath of God. The charging speed of the water shockwave was unusually fast, such that the long sword was scattered around like a lifeless log. The daunting water shockwave continued charging at that old man. What? For a moment, the old man was horrified as he could sense the entire world collapsing. All the energy of the world was rushing towards him. Chapter 602. Shocking Yongchang City 1.
Boom.
The energy of the water shockwave reached the old man in an instant, and the terrified expert from Immortal Slaying Sect emitted a golden glow. However, the glow was just like candlelight. In the face of the deluge, it was extinguished directly. The corpse of the old man sank gradually towards the ground. When the water shockwave fell on the old man, he instantly lost all signs of life. Be careful. Leave this region of water now.
Quick.
When an expert from Dahong Immortal Sect saw the expert from Immortal Slaying Sect being killed instantly, he was terrified. He shouted and retreated back immediately. Retreat. Without needing his reminder, the rest retreated back solemnly upon witnessing how terrifying the water region was. Can you escape? A cold and ruthless light flashed across Wang Xian's eyes as he waved his palm.
Boom.
The deluge behind him flooded towards the group with devastating might. The 14 people were terrified to realize they couldn't escape from the water region. Unity of sword and human. A golden ray of light shot out from the eyes of an expert from Immortal Slaying Sect. The next instant, it was as though he had turned into a sword as he charged forward.
Boom.
Wang Xian stood within the water region and waved his arm sharply.
Boom.
Once again, the unstoppable water shockwave crashed towards the expert from the immortal slaying sect. No! That expert growled loudly, and the long sword in his hand glowed with blinding golden rays. However, the golden rays shattered like glass as they were crushed instantly. Ka-ka! Terrifying water shockwaves fell on him, and sounds of bones cracking reverberated instantly. Soon after, his body fell towards the ground. Grand Waterfall Water Shockwave. This is Great Waterfall Water Shockwave. An expert from Dahong Immortal Sect screamed in horror. What's the Great Waterfall Water Shockwave? Beside him, an old man raging in scorching flames could feel cold perspiration breaking out on his forehead. Within the water region, his strength was restricted by at least 20 to 30%. Immortal Class Battle Technique, Great Waterfall Water Shockwave, the old man replied with disbelief.
What?
This cannot be possible.
No.
No. He can't be an immortal realm existence. I don't believe this. The words of the old man incited frenzy among the group. They stared in disbelief at Wang Xian, who stood in the water region. How can a young man like him be an immortal? We are assassinating an immortal? Fuck. Since you guys dare to try to assassinate me, all of you can die now. Great Waterfall Water Shockwave. Wang Xian shouted, and the water dragon energy within him was depleted at a frightening pace. The surrounding water region was completely within his control. He maneuvered both of his arms. Terrifying water shockwaves charged towards the group as though it was a devastating water dragon. At almost the speed of instant shift, the devastating water shockwave penetrated through the bodies of various budding realm experts.
No.
Get away from me. Flames of Yongchang, an old man shouted, and horrifying energy burst out from his body towards the Great Waterfall Water Shockwave. However, the attempt was futile. The entire water region seemed to be a world of its own. If the world was attacking you and wanted you dead, there would only be a single outcome. They had no ability to withstand it all. As the water shockwave swept across, corpse after corpse fell to the ground. Wang Xian heaved a sigh, and the surrounding water dissipated. He wiped away the perspiration on his forehead and felt entirely depleted. In just a little more than 2 minutes, I have almost exhausted all the energy in my body. However, this water shockwave is truly frightening. 15 budding realm experts couldn't put up any resistance at all. Wang Xian moved his hands, and weapons flew towards him, among which there were 3 pieces of level 12 spiritual equipment. He looked around him, and a blue and red light flashed in his eyes. Spirit Array. They've sealed this region with spirit arrays. However, ruthlessness flashed across Wang Xian's eyes. This spirit array was a far cry from the spirit array around Yongchang World. He could move out of the spirit array and see what was happening outside. It seems like I have encroached on the interests of various elixir pill shops and weapon shops. These must be the people they have sent to assassinate me. Although I have affected your business, you sent assassins after me without even discussing the matter. How domineering. Wang Xian looked across the corpses. He had long expected his actions to offend the other elixir pill shops and weapon shops in Yongchang City. However, he had made another consideration. That was if they approached him after he offended them, he would raise a collaboration proposal. He believed the other party would definitely be satisfied with the collaboration proposal. However, the other parties had sent 15 budding realm experts to assassinate him directly. All the forces behind the elixir pill shops and weapon shops in Yongchang City are likely to be part of this. Since you guys wanted to take the tough road, I'll play along with you to the very end. A cold light flashed across Wang Xian's eyes. He looked at the group of people waiting outside before moving. It's about time. Our elders should have killed that damn master by now. He wouldn't have to die if he knew what was best for him. After offending all the families behind the elixir pill shops and weapon shops in Yongchang City, his death was certain. Just as Wang Xian flew out of the spirit array, he could hear 2 people ridiculing him. Hee hee. You guys are the ones who don't know what's best for you. Just as the two men were conversing casually, a cold voice resounded from above their heads.
Who?
The two of them were shocked and lifted their heads immediately. Cough, cough. At that instant, their eyes widened and fear overwhelmed them.
Bam, bam,
Bam. Sounds of bodies falling to the ground were incessant. Over 50 people. Wang Xian squinted his eyes and looked towards a yard. At that place, there were even wooden materials prepared to restore the structure. Other than that, he also found 4 jade stone plates that were each the size of a human head around. Concealment array, level 1. Spirit array? Is this a spirit array? One that is prepared and made. Wang Xian was shocked. Recalling that the Dragon Palace would require spirit arrays, he smiled and put them within his space ring. The small shop was completely destroyed and has to be rebuilt. Wang Xian frowned. He waved his arm, carried the materials, and came back to the small shop. Perhaps the assassins had taken special precautions. Only his small shop was destroyed. Wang Xian waved his arm and streams of water supported the wooden materials. After half an hour, he had finally rebuilt the small shop. As he retracted the water flow, everything was largely the same as before. The rain was still falling. However, it was a lot lighter as compared to before. There was only dim lighting around the area. Wang Xian looked at those corpses, and a cold smirk appeared on his face. He turned his attention towards a tall tower in the middle. Yongchang Tower was the tallest tower in Yongchang City. It was also a tower for spectating the city view. He waved his arm, and the corpses were hung on the tower. I hope your assassination attempts don't stop. I'd still like to have some fun with you guys. Chapter 603, Shocking Yongchang City 2. Yongchang City was a big city that had a population of 10 million. Yongchang Tower was a 500-meter tall tower, situated in the middle of Yongchang City. As Yongchang enjoyed its peaceful days, the entire city was prosperous, with a vital economy controlled by various families that were established by the higher management members of immortal sects. Yongchang City was a safe city, as the Yongchang law enforcement team established by the 3 immortal sects upheld the security. At dawn, when the first beam of sunlight shone, the entire city was fully boisterous. The early birds were walking in the street, ready to do business or work. However, a horrifying shrill sound suddenly cut the silent dawn air. Below the Yongchang Tower, a woman was terrified upon seeing the corpses on the ground as she let out her screams. Look at the bodies, the bodies. The woman pointed at the tower as she frightfully exclaimed, drawing all the curious people over. What bodies? Why are there bodies? Who would dare to do it? A middle-aged man lifted his head in disbelief. The 3 immortal sects had absolute control, such that Yongchang City was very safe. Of course, fights and bloodshed occur when people are around. Yongchang City had its own dark side. Someone could disappear for no reason. But nobody dared to commit murder openly, and would only destroy the corpse quietly because no one dared to challenge the superiority of the 3 immortal sects. However, the middle-aged man stiffened as he craned up his head and looked at the tower. Bodies were hanging from the tower. His eyes went blank with shock as he fixed his gaze on those 2 bodies. That is... His body slightly quivered as he narrowed his eyes. The 2 masters from St. Forge Workshop. They are budding realm experts. It's the elder from Ao family, a budding realm expert too. The elder from the Hong Immortal Sect. That old man is the attendant from Yongchang. This is madness. There are many budding realm experts here. Gosh, who did it? How did they die? At this time, shocking exclamations were heard from all over the place. Instantly, the surrounding atmosphere began to seethe. More and more people were gathering at the bottom of the tower in the middle of Yongchang City. This is big news, big news. It was appalling for everyone to realize the deaths of so many and their bodies hanging above the tower. Who dared to be insolent hanging their bodies on the tower after killing them. All the ones who are dead are big shots. There are even 2 elders from Immortal Sect. That's way too insolent. Each of them revealed a shocking expression. The elders from Immortal Sect were the most important big shots in the entire Yongchang. Yet 2 of them were dead. More than 10,000 people gathered below the tower before 7 o'clock. They were pointing around, exchanging conversations in shock. "Get out of the way!" At this time, another exclamation was heard. One by one, the law enforcers rode on their swords and came directly to the bodies. The law enforcer in the middle was a middle-aged man, half-step to budding realm expert. When he swept his gaze across all the bodies, he froze. Budding realm, 15 budding realm experts. A group of law enforcers exchanged gazes as they revealed a stern look in their eyes. Budding realm experts were considered top-notch experts in the Yongchang world, with there being no more than a few hundred budding realm experts. Yet, 15 bodies of budding realm experts were found over here. The law enforcers gasped at the sight of it. "Report to Immortal Sect immediately." This involved the elders, attendants of Immortal Sect, and it's not within our scope.
E.
Who is it exactly? How dare he challenge the superiority of the 3 immortal sects, who is courting their own doom? The morning in Yongchang City was unusually seething. 15 budding realm experts, including 2 masters of St. Forge Workshop, elders, and attendants of Immortal Sect. Those dead people hung at the top of the Yongchang Tower. Such a brazen act shook the entire Yongchang City. This was a blatant provocation. This incident struck fear into many people within Yongchang City. After all, 15 budding realm experts, the top-notch existences, were dead. What kind of person could kill so many experts? This was probably the most incendiary event in the 1,000 years of Yongchang City. At this moment, 60 people were already gathered at the same courtyard as yesterday. Ao Shuwen rushed over here with the members of the family, with both eyes filled with disbelief. The atmosphere in the courtyard was rather tense as the elders of the family sat on the chairs in the hall, sweeping gazes around everyone. "That little shop is still there, but our people," an old man exclaimed in a low voice as he looked around with a sullen face. "We had so many experts with us. How is it possible that they were all killed by the Dragon King? Is this even possible? Is it possible?" Everyone darkened their expressions. Was it possible that 15 budding realm experts were killed by the Dragon King? But who else could do it if it were not him? All of them were well aware of the mission yesterday. It must have something to do with the Dragon King. 15 budding realm experts. The old man was shaking. They only had 2 budding realm experts in their family, and losing one was a heavy loss to them. All the people around kept silent. The death of the 15 budding realm experts was a huge blow to them, after which they all felt wary and fearful. "What should we do now?" An old man took a deep breath and asked. They had sent some men to kill the Dragon King. Yet, everyone was dead, and their bodies were hung at the Yongchang Tower as though it was a provocative sign to them. Fury and fear were felt by them at the same time. "Can we make use of the power of Immortal Sect and punish him?" said an old man after less than a minute of silence. "Immortal Sect? Now that he has been promoted to an elder of Dahong Immortal Sect, how could we make use of the Immortal Sect? He's the alchemy and blacksmith master. Besides, we could not announce openly that this incident had something to do with him." Another old man shook his head straight away with flickering eyes. "Unless we can find his weakness, or else." An old man sighed. "Now that we have fallen out with each other, he will be a strong opponent since he has the means to kill 15 budding realm experts in one go. I won't feel safe if we don't remove him. This Dragon King just sprouted up recently. I want to check on him, but couldn't find out anything. His identity is somewhat mysterious. I think we should focus on digging up his past," said Ao Shuwen as he furrowed his brows while looking at the old men. As one of the top 3 most outstanding of Dahong Immortal Sect, this was the first time he felt a tinge of fear for someone of the same level. That's right. We should know our enemy. Let's dig up information on him and cease our actions for the time being. But we also need to prevent him from striking at us.
E.
Chapter 604, Immortal Slaying Sect, Roving Sword. The deaths of 15 budding realm experts shocked the entire Yongchang city. Soon after, news on this matter also reached the 3 immortal sects. However, this matter ended without any results. The forces behind the elixir pill shops and weapons shops of Yongchang City had activated spirit arrays and artificial rain when they struck. There weren't any traces of evidence left. The enforcers of Yongchang City couldn't find any useful information. Coupled with the fact that the families had intentionally wanted to hide the matter, no conclusive result was obtained on the matter. Some members of the higher management of the 3 immortal sects found this to be a little dubious. However, this incident would have far-reaching consequences, and few had the abilities to investigate. Although the entire Yongchang City was discussing the matter, there were no conclusive results. So they were from these families. Wang Xian stood by the door and heard the discussions of the surrounding crowd. A smirk appeared on his face. He had an additional rationale for hanging the corpses of these people on the Yongchang Tower. That was to find information on them. Just as he had expected, he got the information about these people from the surrounding crowd. Wang Xian smirked and returned to the second floor of his shop.
Ha!
However, he picked up a familiar feeling at this moment. Joy beamed in Wang Xian's eyes. He moved to the door and looked to the east. At the same time, several tens of kilometers away, a middle-aged man flying on his sword felt his heart skip a beat. Fervent excitement gleamed in his eyes. The middle-aged man was expressionless and had a terrifying edge hidden within his body. It was as though he was a razor-sharp sword hidden within a scabbard. Around him, there were several youths and middle-aged men. From time to time, this group of people would look at him with respect and fear. "Wait for me here. I'm going to a place and will be back soon." The middle-aged man spoke to those around him. The next moment, he charged across the skies like a terrifying sword while disappearing from sight at an unbelievable speed. Mentor AO. The group was taken aback when they saw the figure disappearing. They exchanged glances, stopped in their flight, and waited on the spot. Dragon King. At the entrance of the small shop, Wang Xian saw the middle-aged man walking towards him. "Come in." Wang Xian scrutinized Roving Sword from top to bottom while revealing a radiant smile. "Roving Sword, where did you come from? Were you injured when you got here?" "Dragon King, I suffered terrifying attacks when I entered this world. I only managed to withstand them after returning to my original form. I landed in a lake by accident and joined the Immortal Slaying Sect after I recovered. Now, I'm a disciple of the Immortal Slaying Sect." Roving Sword followed Wang Xian into the shop and explained what had happened to him. "Immortal Slaying Sect? It seems like you've had a chance encounter of your own." Wang Xian was slightly surprised. Feeling the edge from the body of Roving Sword, he was very satisfied. As compared to when he was in the outside world, Roving Sword had grown a lot stronger. "Dragon King, are we going back?" Roving Sword looked at Wang Xian and asked. "We are definitely going back. However, now isn't the time." Wang Xian walked up to the second floor and continued, "Continue staying in the Immortal Slaying Sect for the near future and wait for me to summon you. Besides that, search for the place where the spirit array is the weakest in Yongchang world." "Yes, Dragon King." Roving Sword nodded his head immediately. Wang Xian nodded his head, looked at Roving Sword and asked, "How far are you from reaching level 13 now?" "Dragon King, I'm still about 30 million points of dragon energy away," answered Roving Sword. Members of the Dragon Palace required slightly less dragon energy as compared to Wang Xian. This was because they weren't authentic divine dragons at this moment and were required to form their own divine dragon bodies to reach the first transformation of the divine dragon transformation. This process of metamorphosis required a large amount of dragon energy. However, the advancement in levels for members of the Dragon Palace couldn't rely on devouring marine animals to extract dragon energy. Other divine dragons wouldn't be able to do so either. This was a unique ability for the one with the divine dragon cultivation system. In addition, the divine dragon cultivation system had another ability. That was that it allowed Wang Xian to inject dragon energy directly into Roving Sword's body. It was similar to imparting abilities to another person. Within the universe, this was also a relatively difficult task to achieve. To impart personal internal energy to others, the one imparting the energy would exhaust their personal energy. If the exhaustion was too great, the one receiving might explode from the infusion of energy. However, this wouldn't be an issue for Wang Xian as he had the system in place. Over 30 million? Wang Xian squinted his eyes. If it was possible, he wanted to increase Roving Sword's strength to level 13 or, in other words, the immortal realm. In that case, the dragon sect would have an immortal class existence other than him, and things would be more convenient. Take this and return to the immortal slaying sect while waiting for my summons. Wang Xian retrieved a piece of metal from the space ring and handed it to Roving Sword. This was the positive-negative metal. The same words would appear on one piece of metal when one wrote on the other. This was one unique way of communicating. Yes, Dragon King. Roving Sword nodded his head and left. Continue refining. Roving Sword being alive was a pleasant surprise for Wang Xian. Looking at the metal materials around the room, he continued his refining. Over the next few days, Wang Xian focused solely on refining spiritual equipment. Perhaps killing 15 budding realm experts the previous time had the effect of deterrence. Over the last few days, no one was sent to assassinate him. Over this period, huge families and forces went to Wang Xian with requests to refine their elixir pulls and spiritual equipment. After refining for 5 days, the materials left in the shop had increased instead of decreasing. However, Wang Xian accepted all requests. As long as people requested for him to refine elixir pills or spiritual equipment, he wouldn't reject them and gave a guarantee he would complete the orders within half a month. It's close to the arranged timing with the elders. Time to head to Dahong Immortal Sect. At the thought that Dahong Immortal Sect still had various elixir pills and spiritual equipment for him to refine, Wang Xian's eyes beamed with anticipation. Although the interest given by Dahong Immortal Sect was even lower, the number of elixir pills and spiritual equipment that Dahong Immortal Sect wanted to refine was astronomical. The business of the shop can't stop either. It seems like I have to ask the Mu family to run it for me. Wang Xian closed the door and thought to himself, after which he flew rapidly towards Dahong Immortal Sect. Elder Wang is here. When Wang Xian arrived at the main peak, the 5 elders, who had been waiting for him, stepped forward to receive him. The great elder examined Wang Xian curiously, and no one knew what he was thinking. Great elder, second elder. Wang Xian nodded his head and greeted them. Elders, where's the place for me to refine elixir pills and spiritual equipment? Let's start tonight. All right. Elder Wang is truly a fanatic at refining elixir pills and spiritual equipment. It's definitely not a fluke that you have become an alchemist master and blacksmith master. The elders were also impressed with Wang Xian's attitude. Based on the news they had gathered, this overly young alchemist master and blacksmith master had spent close to 95% of his time on refining. Becoming a master was definitely not a fluke. Chapter 605, Immortal Realm. Elder Wang, this will be the Xlir Mountain exclusive to you for refining your equipment and elixir pills from now on. On the left is a spiritual medicine garden, and material storage is on the right. There are 5 disciples in the mountain to do your bidding. 5 elders brought Wang Xian to a mountain. The mountain was hundreds of meters tall, and it was not that lofty. But the surrounding environment was not something MT Fingyu could compare to. There was no waterfall, and the surrounding was hushed. On the mountain was planted dawn redwood that could refresh the mind. This type of dawn redwood belonged to level 2 spiritual trees. With spiritual trees spreading across the entire mountain, one could imagine how precious this mountain was. How is it, Elder Wang? This mountain is one of our best few peaks within the Hong Immortal Sect. The great elder chuckled. Here, follow us to check out your alchemy and blacksmith room. The room was located in the middle of the mountain. It was not a house or building but hollowed out from the mountain. Upon entering, Wang Xian's attention was drawn to something in the middle. 5 spiritual liquid balls were suspended in the air, emitting white radiance. These are scarlet liquid balls, which were once immortal class treasures of the Hong Immortal Sect. When 5 scarlet liquid balls gathered together, they could support Elder Wang refining level 12 spiritual equipment and level 7 elixir pills. Given your talent, you could become a Grand Master in no time, said Great Elder to Wang Xian slowly. 5 level 12 scarlet liquid balls. There was radiance flickering in Wang Xian's eyes. Scarlet liquid balls could help to coagulate extreme high-temperature water. They were the best auxiliary spiritual equipment for the art of water refining. 5 scarlet liquid balls were connected by an array such that Wang Xian could make use of it to refine level 12 spiritual equipment and level 7 elixir pills. Over here is the place where you can rest. I heard that you like to drink spiritual tea, so I got the disciples to pluck some for you, said Elder Mu to Wang Xian with a smile. Thank you, elders. Wang Xian was very pleased with the environment. This place was not something that small shop in Yongchang City could compare to. This place was absolutely the sacred grounds of refining equipment and elixir pills. Let the disciples help you with the carrying of the materials. Elder Wang, we shall leave you to your rest. If you need anything, you can just find any of the 5 of us. The great elder waved a dismissal hand to Wang Xian and left after finishing his words. Wang Xian cupped his fists at them and studied the surroundings with a satisfying look. I'll advance to level 9 within 5 days. Wang Xian took a deep breath with glistening eyes. With a soft yell, he said, Men. Yes, Elder Wang. Is there anything for us to do? Immediately, 5 disciples went to Wang Xian with respect and admiration in their eyes. Bring the material over, and bring more. I'll begin to refine elixir pills. Wang Xian looked at the 5 scarlet liquid balls as he instructed them. Yes, Elder. The 5 of them immediately went to retrieve the spiritual grass for refining the pills. Wang Xian stood before the forging table and swung his arm while fixing his eyes on the 5 scarlet liquid balls. A hot water veil appeared while Wang Xian revealed a satisfied look. Elder Wang, here's the material. 5 disciples brought hundreds of portions of materials over, leaving them by the side. Wang Xian waved them off as he entered into the state of refining elixir pills. Elder Wang is really obsessed with pills and equipment. It's been almost 5 days, and I heard the disciples saying his refining period is not less than 23 hours per day. Crazy speed in refining elixir pills. He could refine thousands of elixir pills in a day. That's madness. He alone could beat all the alchemists of immortal sects in terms of speed. At this rate, all the spiritual grass of the Hong Immortal Sect would not sustain his refinery for half a month. I'd guess all the spiritual grass and the refining materials of the Hong Immortal Sect could only last him for a month. But this should be good news for us. Good news. That's right. On the mountain next to Wang Xian, the 5 elders wanted to pay him a visit. They revealed a shocked look on their faces after hearing the reports from the 5 disciples. Seeing his frantic rate of refining elixir pills, the fact that Wang Xian was an alchemy and blacksmith master was no longer horrifying. It's almost time. After Wang Xian was done with refining 4 elixir pills, he squinted his eyes as he looked outside. In the middle of the night, Wang Xian walked out of the cave and came to the summit. The dawn redwood was exuding a sapphire glow that beautified the surrounding environment. Wang Xian took out elixir pills one by one and popped them into his mouth while smiling.
Ding.
Taken level 6 elixir pills. 111239 dragon energy extracted.
Ding.
Taken level 6 elixir pills. 112098 dragon energy extracted.
Ha.
Wang Xian closed his eyes while the system notification continued to ring in his mind.
Ding.
112045 dragon energy taken. Level up to level 9. Ka. Wang Xian opened his eyes as a virtual shadow of a divine dragon flashed across his eyes. His body let out a bone-cracking sound as he released a daunting aura from his body. Roar! A low bellow was heard with a 5-colored divine dragon slowly circling around his body. Level 9, Divine Dragon. Wang Xian gently said. Name, Wang Xian. Race, 5 elements Divine Dragon, able to transform into a human. Level 9. Dragon Energy, 10003421/1000000000. Superpower, dominate the marine animals, ability to rule any marine animals that are lower than existing level. Devour any form of marine animals for extraction of dragon energy. 5 elements control. Art of Cultivation, Divine Dragon Transformation. Art of Inferno Refining, using Origin Source Flame for refining all things. Art of Water Refining, using Art of Water Refining for refining. Battle Techniques, Water Clone Low Class, Sword Edge Storm Middle Class, Instant Shift Low Class. The strength is multiple-fold stronger than before. Is this the power of the immortal realm? Wang Xian's eyes were gleaming as he felt that he could sustain 20 minutes of Great Waterfall Water Shockwave after casting it. On top of that, the area that Great Waterfall Water Shockwave could encompass hit a radius of 10 kilometers. A 10 kilometers radius was a rather scary range. That was equivalent to brewing a storm on rivers and seas. Not even the modern heat weapons, including nuclear weapons, could injure me. Given my speed, I could travel to Yongchang Immortal Sect from here within a minute. My speed is 5 times the speed of sound. Wang Xian looked up. With a thought, his figure instantly appeared 10,000 meters above in the air. Wang Xian brought a smile to his face as he overlooked the entire Yongchang world. This place could no longer bind me. I'm fearless against immortals of this world. Haha. Wang Xian chuckled loudly. With a shift, he landed on the mountain again instantly. Make me a cup of tea. Wang Xian drew his lips slightly as he shouted below. Her? Yes, elder. A disciple who was on vigil hurriedly nodded as he immediately made a cup of spiritual tea. Elder, it's done. Wang Xian went back to his room, picked up the hot spiritual tea, and sipped it. Elder, the 3 immortal sects are selecting 10 disciples to enter Yongchang Cauldron tomorrow. Do you want to take a look? At this time, the disciple who was keeping watch at night asked Wang Xian with slight hesitation. Chapter 606, Grand Master. Huh? The contest to select 10 disciples to enter the Yongchang Cauldron is starting tomorrow? Wang Xian was surprised when he overheard the conversation of the disciples by the side.
Yeah.
The selection will last for more than half a month. That disciple answered respectfully. More than half a month? So long? Wang Xian raised an eyebrow and looked confused. The grand contest of disciples from the 3 immortal sects, Yongchang world, is about to descend to the real world. To ensure that disciples from all immortal sects can experience huge incremental growth, the 3 immortal sects have decided to host a grand contest for all their disciples. The top 30 will receive elixir pills and spiritual equipment as rewards. Besides that, the top 10 will qualify to enter the Yongchang Cauldron. That disciple continued his explanation for Wang Xian. Oh, is that right? Wang Xian nodded his head slightly and answered, I'm not going. Get me another batch of spiritual medicine. I'm going to continue refining. Yes, that disciple was impressed. Despite becoming an alchemist master and blacksmith master at the young age of 20, he was still as diligent. This made an ordinary disciple like him feel ashamed. Wang Xian wasn't interested in the grand contest of disciples or entering the Yongchang cauldron. At this point, Wang Xian wanted to prepare resources for Roving Sword, the Dragonians, and others after reaching level 9. Continue with refining elixir pills. For the subsequent period, Wang Xian was once again immersed in refining elixir pills. After his level had increased, Wang Xian's speed in refining elixir pills had increased substantially. 10 days later, after refining all spiritual medicine into Hong Immortal Sect into elixir pills, Wang Xian requested to refine level 7 elixir pills. The 5 elders were shocked when they received the news. Refining level 7 elixir pills. Level 7 elixir pills could substantially increase the strength of a budding realm expert. Elite elixir pills like these had always been refined by an immortal realm expert into Hong Immortal Sect. There were definitely not more than 3 alchemist grandmasters in the entire Yongchang city. 2 of them were immortal realm experts, while the other was a budding realm alchemist grandmaster from Yongchang Immortal Sect who had to rely on a level 13 alchemy furnace. The 5 elders didn't reject Wang Xian's request and gave him 10 sets of materials. The 5 elders had given him 10 sets for Wang Xian to try out first. If he was successful with these sets, they would allow Wang Xian to continue. It wasn't because the elders were stingy, but mainly because the Hong Immortal Sect also didn't have lots of level 7 spiritual medicine. To refine a level 7 elixir pill, one required 49 tufts of spiritual medicine. If it was unsuccessful, it would be a huge loss. Moreover, the Hong Immortal Sect didn't have a lot of level 7 spiritual medicine. Wang Xian readily accepted their conditions for the 10 sets of materials. Using 2 days, he refined the 10 sets into level 7 elixir pills. The time required to refine level 7 elixir pills had exceeded Wang Xian's expectation completely. Wang Xian gave the 5 elders 12 pills. Once again, the 5 of them were dumbfounded. Close to a 30% success rate. He was able to reach a 30% success rate. Grand Master. An alchemist Grand Master. They looked at Wang Xian fervently, as though they were staring at a peerless beauty. Following which, they gave Wang Xian another 20 sets of materials for him to refine. These 20 sets were also the remaining materials that they had the authority to use. Wang Xian accepted readily. In total, Wang Xian gave the 5 elders 36 level 7 elixir pills from 30 sets of materials. The 5 elders were exhilarated. What they don't know is that my success rate is still 100%. I have 84 level 7 elixir pills with me, and each one could give me more than 1,000,000 units of dragon energy. With 84 pills, that's more than 80 million units of dragon energy. Wang Xian stared at the elixir pills in his hands with excitement. Although 80 million units of dragon energy was insignificant compared to the requirement of 1 billion to reach the first transformation of the Divine Dragon transformation, it was still sufficient to help Roving Sword reach level 13. Besides that, these elixir pills would also substantially strengthen the Dragonians. Let me nurture these 5 spiritual liquid balls into a water dragon ball first. Although merging 5 level 12 spiritual liquid balls might not reach level 13, it will still be pretty strong. When his level increased, Wang Xian wouldn't require them to refine level 7 elixir pills. He placed them into his body instantly and started nurturing. Wang Xian now had 2,000 level 5 elixir pills, 400 level 6 elixir pills, and 84 level 7 elixir pills. Wang Xian looked at the elixir pills he had saved over the past half a month and smiled subconsciously. Other than those he had obtained from the Hong Immortal Sect, some of these elixir pills were from the customers he had accepted through a shop. These elixir pills would be more than sufficient to strengthen the Dragonians and the Dragon Palace. At that time, I won't have to worry, even if the other 8 cauldron worlds are appearing in the real world. Wang Xian's eyes beamed with excitement. Bring in the materials for spiritual equipment. Refining of spiritual equipment. Refining of spiritual equipment in a frenzy. In less than 10 days, Wang Xian had refined over 1,000 pieces of spiritual equipment. He had also obtained 300 to 400 pieces of spiritual equipment in the process. Level 12 Spiritual Equipment. Wang Xian's eyes lit up and he got ready to refine level 12 spiritual equipment. This time, the 5 elders didn't hesitate at all and gave all the materials to him. When Wang Xian had been refining elixir pills and spiritual equipment, the Yongchang world had been exceptionally lively over the past half a month. The grand contest between disciples of 3 immortal sects was going on, and the top 10 would qualify to enter the Yongchang cauldron for cultivation. When everyone heard about it, they were frenzied. Yongchang Cauldron was the most elite spiritual equipment and an immortal treasure. Entering it was an attractive option. Moreover, based on historical records, all the immortals had reached that stage within the Yongchang Cauldron. The spiritual energy in it was so dense that it could almost be considered liquid. Cultivating in it would be dozens of times more effective. It was the holy ground for countless experts. Countless capable disciples would fight for the 10 slots with all their might. Other than these 10 slots, the top 30 disciples would also receive immense rewards. Level 11 Spiritual Equipment, a Level 6 Elixir Pill, and 5,000 Spiritual Stones. The 3 immortal sects had expended huge resources in preparation of substantially improving the strength of their disciples. The competition ground was in Yongchang Immortal Sect. It was also the largest site of the 3 immortal sects. Each arena spanned several miles, and there were over 20 arenas. More than several hundreds of thousands of people could sit around these arenas. Soundless sword, breathless sword, dustless sword, sorrowless sword. At this very moment, and in an arena of Yongchang Immortal Sect, a middle-aged man held a long sword in his hand. As he waved the sword energies penetrated a young man soundlessly, breathlessly, dustlessly, and sorrowlessly. What is this? Merciless swordsmanship. What an incredible display of merciless swordsmanship. SSS. Yonglin is defeated. The third-ranked disciple of Yongchang Immortal Sect was defeated. That middle-aged man is too strong. He was executed soundless, breathless, dustless, and sorrowless in an instant. Where did this disciple from Immortal Slaying Sect come from? Why haven't I heard of him before? His name is Roving Sword. Based on what I've gathered, he only joined the Immortal Slaying Sect a while back. He is incredibly strong, and especially so in sword technique. He is widely regarded by many in Immortal Slaying Sect to be a once-in-a-10,000-year genius that has a high chance of reaching the immortal realm. Chapter 607. Yongchang Supreme Talents. All the disciples of the 3 major Yongchang immortal sects gathered around in the contest arena at this time. As a rare once-in-millennium event, every disciple was present. Even those average disciples who had not advanced to Inborn were looking for a spot to observe the battle between top-notch Yongchang talents. Hundreds of thousands of disciples from 3 major immortal sects looked at that middle-aged man in the middle of the stage. All of them were discussing in astonishment. His name was Roving Sword, the scary genius of swordsmanship from Immortal Slaying Sect. Roving Sword was categorized as middle-aged in the real world, but a young man in Yongchang. Seeing that he defeated Yonglin, third-ranked in Yongchang Immortal Sect, all the disciples were in disbelief. Yongchang Immortal Sect was the strongest sect among the 3 immortal sects. In terms of the numbers of immortals and supreme talents, it was almost better than Dahong and Immortal Slaying Sect. The fact that Roving Sword of Immortal Slaying Sect could defeat Yonglin, the supreme talent of Yongchang, surprised everyone. You lost. Roving Sword, on the stage, remained aloof without any expressions on his face. Despite defeating the supreme talent of Yongchang world, he remained as calm as a millpond. As a golden swordfish, he did not have much emotion except for that related to becoming stronger and pledging his loyalty to the Dragon King. I lost. Yonglin looked awful. He wiped his neck that was being brushed by sword radiance and flew to one corner with a sullen face. Roving Sword turned around and flew to another place. Senior Brother AO. As the disciples of Immortal Slaying Sect saw Roving Sword, they greeted him with awe. Roving Sword nodded coldly, as though he was like a block of ice. I never expected Roving Sword to be so strong. Yonglin, didn't you say you could beat him? What a shame. In the other direction, Yonglin, with fiery red hair, landed on a small hill nearby. Over a dozen disciples sat on the mountain with tea on the side. Compared to other disciples who were standing around, watching, the place where these disciples were sitting seemed more relaxing. Didn't he knock you off from the top candidate list of cultivating disciples? Yonglin returned a cold bellow as he grimaced at a young man who had a sharp chin. He's still no match for me. The young man with a sharp profile spoke without any emotion. His golden palms were like metal. His strength could be ranked in the top 5 or 6. Hong Tianda commented impassively at the side. 5 or 6. I don't think so. As soon as Hong Tianda's voice trailed off, a Yongchang Immortal Sect disciple curled his lips upwards and spoke with a smile. This guy is familiar, but he's too aloof. I don't like him. At this time, a female voice was heard as she observed with doubts. However, her strength was only at the inborn level. Since she was standing at a distance of 6 kilometers, she could not see clearly. Haha, Xiao, this fellow is even more aloof than Hong Tianda, ignoring everyone like a fool. He only has eyes for swordsmanship. A young man of Immortal Slaying Sect chuckled and replied to the girl. He's expressionless? Sounds familiar. Where have I seen this before? The girl murmured, with her eyes blinking nonstop. However, she could not recall anything. So she might as well cast this aside, and she tugged another girl by her arm with a smile. This time, my sister will top the chart. Senior Brother Go 1 is number 1. Senior Brother Hong is number 2 and Senior Brother Bai is number 3. I'm at most number 4. The girl who was being hugged shook her head plainly. No, how can those guys fight with you? Unless they are not men. The girl laughed as she spoke. The surrounding crowd chuckled. Even though the girl was of inborn level, she was the youngest daughter of an immortal, the little princess of the entire Yongchang world who received more doting than her sister. When the last day is here, I'll teach that roving sword a lesson. A young man of Immortal Slaying Sect held his level 12 spiritual sword with a face of coldness. The sudden appearance of this guy not only stole his limelight in Immortal Slaying Sect, but also gave him the cold shoulder many times, which embarrassed him. He was prepared to teach him a lesson. Haha, Jin Jian. If you can beat him, you will be ranked number 5. By then, we won't have to compete with each other anymore. Upon hearing his words, a disciple of Yongchang Immortal Sect smiled and commented. Then I want the 5th position. Jin Jian smiled confidently. Among the disciples, you're only number 6. I'll fight with Go 1 for number 2. At this time, Hong Tianda, sitting at the side, remarked once again. Her? Everyone around him froze for a moment as they looked at Hong Tianda with disbelief. Senior Brother Hong, don't tell me there's someone better than you and Senior Brother Goen? A young man was stunned and asked this with a smile. Yes. Hong Tianda answered directly.
Who?
Who actually makes you feel inferior? All the supreme talents in Yongchang are here. Who is our opponent? Asked Go 1 to Hong Tianda with his eyes narrowed. You'll find out on the last day. Without much strength, he answered. Hong Tianda thought of a person who could easily defeat him in a single move. He was not convinced of Go 1, but he had to succumb to defeat by that demon-like figure. He touched the huge sword in his hand with self-understanding that he was still far from that demon-like figure. Oh, then I will really want to take a look. At the same time, I will show you my strength. Go Wen's lips curled up slightly with a pleasant look in his eyes. Ao Shuwen, at the side, remained quiet with glistening eyes. His mind was not here, as he was thinking of the Dragon King. For half a month, over a dozen families searched the entire Yongchang world. Still, none of them retrieved any information on the Dragon King. This made them wonder. Yongchang world is not big. How can a person suddenly appear? But all these forces were not willing to give up and continued to look up. With that Dragon King around one day, the dozen forces would not have a day of peace. They must slay him. Besides, they needed to find out how he had managed to kill 15 budding realm experts. Buzz. At this time, Roving Sword was standing in front of the immortal slaying sect disciples. A thing on his arm buzzed. He swung his arm and took out the positive-negative medal. Looking at the message on it, Roving Sword did not hesitate as he flitted towards Dahong Immortal Sect. Some of the elders and attendants from Immortal Slaying Sect furrowed their brows slightly when they saw the departing Roving Sword. This disciple is extremely talented. He's very suitable for merciless swordsmanship, but he was simply ruthless. The sect leader said the merciless swordsmanship focused on attacks. But when one attains mastery of it, one can become truly merciless, disregarding and annihilating everything. Such a disciple might be hard to come across, but he was not easy to control. The sect leader also said he would be banned from entering Yongchang Cauldron this time. It's better to prohibit his entry. If he could advance to the immortal realm with merciless swordsmanship, I don't think that even the sect leader could command him. Chapter 608. Annihilate the Dragon Sect. Unification of the Underworld. Dragon King. Roving Sword approached and descended into Wang Xian's MT refining. When Wang Xian saw Roving Sword, he revealed a smile. How many more days are left until the grand contest of Yongchang World begins? Wang Xian asked Roving Sword. We have about 4 more days, answered Roving Sword. 4 days? It's been approximately 1.5 months since we arrived in this world. When the grand contest ends, we will return after entering the Yongchang Cauldron. Wang Xian hesitated for a moment before answering. Dragon King, I found the region where we came in from previously. If we break the spirit array of that region, we will be able to get out. However, we will suffer the attacks of the spirit array. Roving Sword had not forgotten Wang Xian's instructions from before as he reported to Wang Xian. With our strength, it shouldn't be a problem for us to get out. How many more units of dragon energy are you still lacking? Wang Xian stared at Roving Sword. Reporting, Dragon King. I'm still lacking approximately 33 million units of dragon energy. With my current cultivation pace, I would require roughly 10 years. If I can enter that Yongchang Cauldron, I should be able to shorten the time required substantially, answered Roving Sword. Let me increase your strength to level 13 first. Wang Xian's eyes flickered, and he moved his arm, and dense streams of dragon energy entered Roving Sword's body directly. Thank you, Dragon King. Roving Sword sat on the floor right away to digest the dragon energy from Wang Xian. Transferring dragon energy was an easy task for Wang Xian. Moreover, it was easy for Roving Sword to absorb.
Dang. Wang.
At this moment, razor-sharp swords appeared around Roving Sword suddenly.
Ah.
Wang Xian looked with astonishment at the illusory long swords hovering around Roving Sword. These long swords weren't made of metal. Instead, they were exceptionally unique long swords that seemed to possess a special characteristic. 5 long swords circled around him slowly. When Wang Xian sensed Roving Sword growing stronger rapidly, he felt more assured. Looking at the level 11 long sword in his hand, Wang Xian hesitated for some time and decided to refine a level 12 spiritual sword for him. At the same time, Wang Xian was prepared to refine some pieces of spiritual equipment for himself. At the very least, he would want a spiritual sword. With sufficient materials and having leveled up to level 9, refining level 12 spiritual equipment was an easy task for Wang Xian. Soon, 2 level 12 spiritual swords were refined. Looking at the two swords, Wang Xian's eyebrows knitted together. Would it be possible to craft a dragon sword? To embed the dragon balls within and refine a 5-elemental spiritual sword? Or perhaps I could refine the set of dragon balls into spiritual equipment. Wang Xian thought about it. With his current strength, he was only capable of refining level 12 spiritual equipment. If he wished to refine level 13 spiritual equipment, he would have to dabble in spirit arrays. The arts of water refining of Dahong Immortal Sect had no records on level 13 spiritual equipment. When spiritual equipment reached level 13, it could be called immortal treasure. The truncheon that Ajaya had should be an immortal treasure class weapon. Previously, Ajaya had relied on her immortal treasure to stand her ground against budding realm experts despite not having any other budding realm experts. The Dragon Balls were, in fact, spiritual equipment. Wang Xian was rather unique as he was a 5 elements divine dragon. He could create 5 different Dragon Balls. If he could use 5 different Dragon Balls at the same time, embedding them onto spiritual equipment would be a great decision. I can embed them into 5 different swords or make them into a crown. Wang Xian raised an eyebrow. At the thought of the crown that Ajaya was wearing, a smile appeared on his face. With a thought, he looked across through the materials kept within through space rings. At this juncture, the amount of materials within the space ring was astronomical. Level 10 materials could be considered the most common. There was quite a large amount of level 12 material too. Golden Crown Metal, level 12. Yellowstone Water, level 12. Frozen Wood, level 12. Fire Keystone, level 12. Yellow Spiritual Earth, level 12. 5 types of materials of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth attribute. It's enough to refine a crown. However, I only have Wood Dragon Ball, Water Dragon Ball, and Fire Dragon Ball at this moment. I'm still missing Earth Dragon Ball and Metal Dragon Ball. Wang Xian thought to himself. However, it didn't really matter. He just had to collect 2 other elemental Dragon Balls in the future. The crown he was going to refine was just going to be in its preliminary form. Just as Roving Sword was advancing to level 13 and Wang Xian was refining spiritual equipment, 10 figures stood in the air at one corner of Yongchang World. 2 figures standing in the middle were blurry and had immense energy. The 2 figures emitted fiery red light that was of a different shade than ordinary fire. Their flames had a tinge of holiness. Around them, a group of people stood behind the 2 figures deferentially. Remember what we have instructed you to do. A figure spoke to the crowd. Yes, great fire god. We assure you that we will build a powerful information network in preparation for Yongchang World descending into the outside world. 2 familiar figures reported respectfully to the 2 illusory figures. Emperor Qi from Diabolism and Nie Wushuang, the sect leader of Donghua Sacred Sect. The seemingly invincible duo in the underworld was now standing deferentially behind the 2 illusory figures. We will send 4 other guys with you. As long as it is regarding the establishment of an information network, they will listen to your instructions. Both of you have to establish an all-knowing information group in the shortest time. One of the 2 illusory figures added. Yes, we will definitely complete it. Emperor Qi and Nie Wushuang gave their guarantee instantly. All right, we will send you guys out now. The 2 illusory figures nodded their heads and raised their palms. Both of them wore red spiritual gloves and expanded instantly at this juncture. The immense energy from the 2 pairs of huge 5-meter palms shocked Emperor Qi and Nie Wushuang. Ka ka ka. A crack easily ripped apart the sky. Get out now, the 2 illusory figures shouted. Emperor Qi and Nie Wushuang didn't dare to hesitate a moment. They moved and headed towards the other piece of sky instantly. Beside them, 4 old men followed closely. Crack, crack, crack. Explosions reverberated from the space as Emperor Qi and Nie Wushuang left the area. The sounds of these explosions sent chills down the spines of those who heard them. The previous time, they had almost died from the attacks of the spirit array. If the immortals had not intervened, they would have been dead by now. We are back. The duo looked at the familiar sky, and excitement beamed in their eyes. Huashan was below them, and they were 10,000 meters above in the sky. The duo pondered for a long time before meeting the eyes of each other. The alliance of orthodox sects and diabolism shall work together to build a powerful information network. Nie Wushuang said solemnly. All right. Emperor Qi nodded his head, looked before him, and remarked, I wonder if the Dragon King and the middle-aged man are dead. They must be dead. Even if they are dead, the Dragon Sect still exists. We can't keep the Dragon Sect. In that case, let's annihilate the Dragon Sect first to unite the underworld. The duo was emotionless and flew away, leaving a trail of light. Behind them, the four old men followed closely. Chapter 609. Dragon King.
Boom.
After a day of sitting beside Wang Xian with his legs crossed, Roving Sword opened his eyes as he sensed a daunting aura emanating out from his body. With a swing, Wang Xian surrounded him with water energy as he fixed his eyes on Roving Sword. 5 illusory long swords were spinning around him at a domineering speed. Wang Xian looked to the side and was surprised to see the long swords at the side were shaking violently. He can even vibrate level 12 spiritual swords? It looks like something is odd about Roving Sword strength. Wang Xian narrowed his eyes in astonishment. Dragon King. At this time, Roving Sword greeted Wang Xian respectfully while he stood up and looked at Wang Xian. What kind of art are you practicing? The strength seemed odd when you attained your breakthrough. Wang Xian said to Roving Sword, as he was taken aback. Merciless swordsmanship. Dragon King, my merciless swordsmanship has advanced to level 13, the lower class immortal realm. Lower class immortal? Are there different classes for immortal level 2? An unexpected radiance flashed in his eyes.
Yes.
The beginning of the immortal realm after advancement is known as lower class immortal. After a full mastery of high-class battle techniques, it is known as middle class immortal. After converting battle techniques to a superpower, it would be known as upper-class immortal. Anything beyond this is not within my knowledge. Roving Sword explained to Wang Xian. I didn't know that immortal realm was divided into 3 levels. Wang Xian nodded his head slowly. You may go back now. I'll also enter the Yongchang Cauldron a few days from now. Yes, Dragon King. I'll come in as a champion in this grand contest, said Roving Sword plainly to Wang Xian. Wang Xian nodded with a smile. Given Roving Sword's current strength, getting the champion in this grand contest was a piece of cake. No one, except for the immortals of Yongchang, could be a match for him. After Roving Sword left, Wang Xian continued to refine his spiritual equipment. Elder Wang. 5 disciples called out to Wang Xian, who was refining equipment in the mountain 3 days later. What is it? Asked Wang Xian expressionlessly. He was ready to continue with his refinery. Elder Wang, today's the last day of the grand contest of the 3 immortal sects. It's also the day when the announcement will be made for the top 30. At that time, they will be revealing the names of disciples who will be able to enter Yongchang Cauldron. The Great Elder wants us to inform you to make a trip over. A disciple said respectfully to Wang Xian. Last day? Wang Xian nodded and stored his materials. Fine, let's go then. Where is it? Lead the way, will you? Yes, Elder Wang. I heard that Elder Wang will be able to enter Yongchang Cauldron. Congratulations. That disciple spoke with envy. Wang Xian nodded his head impassively as he followed behind and headed to Yongchang Immortal Sect. Senior Brother Gowen, go for it. Senior Brother Hong, go for it. Senior Brother Jin Jian, go for it. Wang Xian could hear cheering voices even when he was 1,000 meters away from the grand contest arena. Wang Xian swept his gaze across and spotted where Da Hong Immortal Sect was. He immediately hovered to the elder's side. Elder Wang is here. The elders of the Hong Immortal Sect were sitting on a small hill beside the grand contest arena. Upon seeing Wang Xian's arrival, they immediately greeted him with broad smiles. Today is the day where the top 5 would become known. This was the grand contest that involved all the disciples of Yongchang Immortal Sect. At this time, none of the elders of the Hong Immortal Sect would miss it. Greetings to Great Elder, Second Great Elder, and the elders. Wang Xian cupped his fists to each of the elders. Elder Wang, the grand contest of 3 major immortal sects will be over once the top 5 is out. At that time, you'll also need to go to the stage as one of the candidates who will be entering the Yongchang Cauldron. Let all the disciples of Yongchang world know about you, said the great elder to Wang Xian. Sure. Entering the Yongchang Cauldron was a great opportunity for everyone. Only 13 people in 50 years could do so. After today's grand contest was over, they could enter the cauldron tomorrow. 3 default disciples would also enjoy the same glory as the top 10 disciples. Who are the top 5 currently? Wang Xian looked at the arena with curiosity as he asked the great elder beside him. The results will only be determined after the battle of Roving Sword and Jin Jian of Immortal Slaying Sect. The great elder chuckled as he pointed to the 2 people in the field. Wang Xian looked over. Sure enough, Roving Sword and another man who had a sharp profile were battling. Haha. Wang Xian chuckled as he looked to the fiery column at one side. On it was a ranking. The 1st to 6th positions were not finalized yet, while the rest of the disciples had already become fixed. At this time, Wang Xian sensed a gaze looking at him, scrutinizing him from head to toe. He raised his eyebrows and spun around, looking at one elder on the mountain. When that elder looked over at Wang Xian, there was no concealment to his cold-looking eyes. I remember there was an elder from the Hong Immortal Sect among those families who tried to assassinate me the other night. It looks like he's the one. A tinge of coldness flashed in Wang Xian's eyes. Roving Sword is going to win. This is totally unexpected. Jin Jian has always been the top disciple of Immortal Slaying Sect. No one expected that the disciple who just joined Immortal Slaying Sect could defeat him. The top 5 will be confirmed. At this time, an elder exclaimed from the side. Wang Xian followed his gaze. True enough, the long sword of Roving Sword had slashed that young man, leaving a long wound on his body. After which he pointed the cold-looking sword at him. Jin Jian was looking dreadful, while the arm that was grabbing the long sword was trembling. Where did you get your level 12 spiritual equipment? He bellowed in a low voice with a twisted expression. Roving Sword ignored him entirely as he moved back to his position. If he displayed his full strength, Jin Jian would have been defeated in one stroke. Fine. Seeing that Roving Sword was unconcerned with his questions, Jin Jian's face was as black as coal. He made a move and hovered to a small mountain. This is totally unexpected. Jin Jian, you actually lost to a disciple who just joined Immortal Slaying Sect. You're losing your title as the number 1 disciple in the sect. Just as Jin Jian arrived at that mountain, a young man's taunting voice rang in his ears. If not for the fact that he possesses a level 12 spiritual sword, he would definitely not be my match, said Jin Jian coldly, with a gloomy look. Don't you have a level 12 spiritual sword too? That young man chuckled, revealing a tinge of curiosity on his face. Did you guys from Immortal Slaying Sect say you would stop him from entering the Yongchang Cauldron? Besides, he doesn't have any friends. Where did he get his level 12 spiritual sword from? How would I know? Jin Jian's expression sank as he tightened his grip on his spiritual sword. I know it was the Dragon King. He was the one who refined it. At this time, Ao Shuan's voice cut through the air. He looked at the spiritual swords in Hong Tianda and Piao Lingshua's hands. The swords in senior brother Hong and junior sister Piao's hands were refined by Dragon King. Dragon King? Yet, what Ao Shuan said stunned the 2 people beside him. Xiao Xiao and the guild leader of Sacred Followers Guild. When they heard the name, There was a trace of doubt flashing across their eyes. Chapter 610. He is the Dragon King 1. Dragon King? Xiao Xiao mumbled to herself upon hearing Ao Shuwen. She had a strong impression of this name. That brat that could be considered demon-like even when compared with those of his age in Yongchang world also had the name Dragon King. When she had first entered the real world, she had no regard for any forces in the underworld, let alone any of the supreme talents of the underworld. Even Emperor Qi of Diabolism and the sect leader of Donghua sacred sect, Nia Wushuang, were average in her eyes. However, that demon-like Dragon King had truly surprised and shocked her. Upon hearing this name, she was a little doubtful. The sect leader of the Sacred Followers Guild beside her was equally surprised and doubtful. That's right. It was refined by the Dragon King. Piao Lingxua nodded her head plainly before continuing. However, he's just a blacksmith master. He probably couldn't refine level 12 spiritual equipment. Dragon King? Several supreme talents of Yongchang Immortal Sect and Immortal Slaying Sect exclaimed with curiosity. Over the recent period, they had been focusing on preparing for the grand contest and had not paid attention to other matters. He can refine level 12 spiritual equipment now. He's a blacksmith grand master, said Ao Shuwen with a tinge of fear and respect. That's a grandmaster. Over the recent period, the dozen-odd forces had been monitoring the Dragon King through various methods. The moment he could refine level 7 elixir pills and level 12 spiritual equipment, they knew about it. The greater the strength the Dragon King displayed, the more horrified they were. They also knew about Roving Sword visiting the Dragon King a few days ago.
What?
Grandmaster? The crowd of supreme talents were taken aback as they revealed expressions of shock. Ao Shuwen nodded his head, looked at Jin Jian and said his spiritual sword was forged by the Dragon King. Dragon King? Grandmaster? Jin Jian looked bitter and a tinge of ruthlessness flashed across his eyes. Ao Shuwen was secretly exhilarated. He knew that Jin Jian was a petty person who would definitely deal with those who went against him. As long as he could give the Dragon King some issues, Ao Shuwen wouldn't let the opportunity slip. Who would have expected that another Grandmaster would appear in Yongchang world? The handsome young man with long hair, Go Wen, was surprised. Senior brother Hong probably referred to him when he talked about the one who would be first in the rankings of young disciples. Ao Shuwen glanced at Go Wen, smirked and added, "Oh, Hong Tianda, is he the one you're talking about?" Before Hong Tianda said a word, Go Wen squinted his eyes and asked him.
Yeah.
"You wouldn't be a match for him," said Hong Tianda boldly and frankly. Hee. Is that so? In that case, I would like to meet him if there's an opportunity, replied Go Wen coldly. Hong Tianda didn't respond and simply sat there. Seeing this, Ao Shuwen was pleasantly surprised. Junior sister Hua, it's our battle next. Do you still want to compete? It's not necessary. I admit my defeat. Let's bring on the battle between senior brother Hong and Roving Sword from Immortal Slaying Sect. Haha. Hong Tianda, I'll defeat you easily in our upcoming battle. The title of the strongest disciple of the 3 immortal sects will definitely be mine. The contest continued. After half an hour, the match between the strongest disciple of the Hong Immortal Sect, Hong Tianda, and Roving Sword of Immortal Slaying Sect started. Just as everyone thought that Hong Tianda would emerge victoriously, Roving Sword from Immortal Slaying Sect won once again. This shocked everyone, including all the supreme talents. Senior brother Hong was defeated by Roving Sword. What a huge upset. This is really shocking. Roving Sword defeated senior brother Hong Tianda. It would seem that he has the strength to win it all. He's the greatest dark horse for this contest. However, it would likely be impossible for him to defeat senior brother Go Wen. Senior brother Go Wen is a level stronger than senior brother Hong. He should be able to defeat Roving Sword. Around the arena, several tens of thousands of disciples were discussing fervently. Roving Sword making it to the finals had exceeded the expectation of all the disciples. However, none of these disciples felt that Roving Sword would be able to defeat Gowon. Gowon was the strongest disciple of Yongchang Immortal Sect. He was incredibly strong and had Heavenly Flame, a set of spiritual equipment and strength that triumphed over his peers and other supreme talents. Roving Sword making it to the finals was indeed unexpected. However, he's still lacking the strength to defeat Gowon. An elder on the mountain peak, where all elders had gathered, commented plainly. Elder Wang, once their contest is over, head to the arena. At that time, the sect will announce the name list to enter Yongchang Cauldron. The great elder looked at Wang Xian and remarked. Wang Xian nodded his head. He looked around him and smirked. No one here could defeat Roving Sword. At this very moment, on the small mountain peak where the elders of Immortal Slaying Sect were standing, the elders' eyebrows were knitted together, and their eyes were fixed on Roving Sword. He defeated Hong Tianda. Do you guys think he will defeat Gowon? An old man frowned and asked this with a bitter face. Although the sect leader had given his orders to disallow Roving Sword from entering the Yongchang Cauldron, Roving Sword had now made it to the finals. Based on the rules of the Grand Contest, the top 10 would qualify to enter Yongchang Cauldron. On the rare chance that Roving Sword was to defeat Gowon, he would be the overall champion for this Grand Contest. If they were to disallow the strongest disciple of the three immortal sects from entering Yongchang Cauldron, they would find it hard to explain themselves. Moreover, this wouldn't do any good to the reputation of Immortal Slaying Sect. Trying to put down their most talented disciple. What would the disciples of other immortal sects think? The current situation is having some implications for the reputation of our Immortal Slaying Sect. He most likely couldn't defeat Gowon from Yongchang Immortal Sect. An elder standing by the side spoke with a worried frown. What if? Why don't we let him give up the match? This would save us from any potential implications. Another elder hesitated for a moment before suggesting. That will work. At the end of the day, he will definitely have issues with not being able to enter the Yongchang Cauldron. In that case, let's just be more decisive. What issues could this kid have? He's just like a machine. The elders of Immortal Slaying Sect made their decisions and informed the referee immediately that Roving Sword from Immortal Slaying Sect had admitted his defeat. Admitted defeat? Roving Sword from Immortal Slaying Sect has admitted his defeat.
Sigh.
I thought we would be getting a thrilling contest. Who would have expected him to admit defeat? It seems like Roving Sword knows where he stands. He probably has chosen to admit his defeat after learning how strong Senior Brother Gowon is. Indeed, Senior Brother Gowon is undoubtedly the strongest disciple in the younger generation. When the hundreds of thousands of disciples around heard the news of Roving Sword admitting his defeat, they frowned initially and soon broke out into raucous discussion. When Wang Xian heard the news, he was astonished. Roving Sword admitted his defeat. Roving Sword had told him that he was going to take first place. Since Roving Sword had promised him, Roving Sword would definitely ensure that it came to fruition. Roving Sword, you won't have to fight the last match. We have admitted defeat on your behalf. Just as Roving Sword was frowning and feeling puzzled about the news, he heard the great elder of Immortal Slaying Sect. He was taken aback. His expression turned solemn, but he didn't say a word. Chapter 611. He is the Dragon King, 2. This ends our Grand Disciple Tournament of Yongchang Immortal Sect. Disciples in the top 30, please make your way up Talon Peak. Default disciples within the three major immortal sects to enter the Yongchang Cauldron, please make your way up Talon Peak. The voice of the referee echoed within an area with a radius of more than a dozen kilometers as he remained on the sparring stage, once all the placings had been finalized. All the disciples heard the announcement loud and clear. Disciples in the top 30, they are the 30 strongest disciples within all of Yongchang. How I envy them. It's all glory and achievement for these 30 most outstanding ones within the entire Yongchang. The top 10 are qualified to enter the Yongchang Cauldron. This is a massive resource we're talking about. In addition, there are 3 default disciples appointed within the 3 immortal sects. I wonder who they are. The default disciple within the Yongchang Immortal Sect is Junior Sister Xiao Xiao, without a doubt. As for Immortal Slaying Sect, it should be Lu Qianfeng. At the mere age of 20, he already possesses Dan Realm prowess. Such an incredible natural gift. Rumor has it that he's the default disciple. While the one for Dahong Immortal Sect remains unknown, the discussion began to fire up amongst the crowd, which was made up of hundreds of thousands of disciples. The entire area was sent into utter chaos. Let's go. Congrats, senior brother Gowen. To think that Roving Sword still knows his limits. In knowing that he is no match for you, he chose to concede defeat immediately. Haha, as I said, senior brother Gowen will definitely emerge as the top in this tournament as the lead disciple of the 3 major immortal sects. Several disciples congratulated Gowen as they stood atop the summit where all the outstanding young heroes had gathered. Haha, I intended to spar against that Roving Sword. Little did I expect him to throw in the towel. He sure knows his limits, huh? Gowen roared with laughter with his head held high. He was wearing gloves the color of crimson while holding onto the flaming spear. There he was, as though he was the flaming god of war. With a face full of self-conceit, he scanned his surroundings while revealing a faint smile. He would emerge as the lead disciple of the 3 major immortal sects after today, which was an unparalleled honor. Let's go, grand senior brother. One of the disciples gestured with a smile. In one swift shuffle, he leaped onto a long sword and flew towards another summit which stood beside the current sparring stage. Let's go. The crowd of outstanding young heroes flew off. In an instant, their movement attracted the stares of the hundreds of thousands of disciples as they looked at the group with the utmost envy and respect. Be on your way now, Xiao Xiao. The guild leader of the Sacred Followers Guild laughed as he spoke when he saw that the former had yet to take her leave as they remained on the summit. Father, you said you had a set of spiritual equipment and armor refined for me. I'm going to put them on today, haha. Xiao Xiao grinned from ear to ear before flying in another direction. Elder Wang, please get going, the great elder said to Wang Xian with a smile, as the duo stood atop the elder's summit that belonged to the Hong Immortal Sect. All right, elders. I'll head over then. Wang Xian replied pleasantly. With a change of stance, he took off in the direction of the mountain which stood at the center. Ha! Several elders from the Hong Immortal Sect watched from behind Wang Xian with a tinge of envy. That said, one of the elders frowned as he watched Wang Xian making his way over. He looked on with an even darker expression. Whiz! Dragon King! As Wang Xian flew over to the centermost mountain, he was greeted by the voice of Roving Sword. Roving Sword, why did you concede defeat at the last minute? Wang Xian asked in utter confusion as he looked at Roving Sword with furrowed brows. It's the several elders from Immortal Slaying Sect. They threw in the towel directly and only informed me after conceding defeat. Roving Sword replied emotionlessly. They got you to concede defeat? Wang Xian was taken by surprise. To which he continued, it's all right, so long as you can make it into the Yongchang Cauldron. Yes, Dragon King. Roving Sword nodded in response. As the two shifted, they arrived at the peak of the centermost mountain. As they stood on the platform of the summit, they could see the hundreds of thousands of disciples at a glance. As the platform was relatively small, the crowd of disciples below could also make out the outline of those atop the platform. Congratulations, senior brother Gowen, for becoming the lead disciple of the 3 major immortal sects, the strongest contender amongst all current disciples. Truly deserving of the title, senior brother Gowen. As they reached the stage, Wang Xian could see the crowd who had gathered to extend their best wishes to Gowon. Ha! At the sight, Wang Xian snorted in dismissal as he stood by the side. Junior brother Hong, which is the Dragon King whom you were talking about? The one who made you think he was one we could match up to? Show him to me. Just then, Gowon spoke in a standoffish tone. Amongst the disciples of the three major immortal sects, one's position would not be based on age, but rather capabilities alone. The one to emerge as the strongest would ascend to become the senior disciple. Gowon had asked the question indifferently while surveying his surroundings, where his gaze eventually landed on Roving Sword and Wang Xian. That's right, which of them is it? Is it that young chap beside Roving Sword? That's him? Dragon King of the Dahong Immortal Sect? Another young man spoke with a faint smirk while standing beside Gowon as he turned over to look at Wang Xian as well. The stage was relatively small, hence one could see everyone around with a brief glance. Amongst which, Wang Xian stood out as the only stranger, one whom they had never met before. Gowon, you are no match for him, Hong Tianda said to Gowon in a flat tone as he watched Gowon, locking his brows. Oh, is that so? I'll see for myself then. During the matches this time around, Junior Sister, who conceded defeat at the last minute, while Roving Heavens, who defeated you, had to concede defeat towards me. How upsetting. If possible, I wouldn't mind having someone to practice with. Gowon rebutted with his head held high while he placed his spear on his back. The title of the lead disciple of the three major immortal sects, along with the concession of defeat from Roving Sword, had built up his self-conceit and ego. But then again, he had the means to. He smirked as he looked at Wang Xian before making his way over with a smile. Hi, Junior, I'm Gowon. Junior brother Hong has been speaking highly of you, so I decided to come over and take a look. Oh, hello there. Wang Xian nodded briefly as he looked at Gowon. He said that your prowess is above mine, so I've come to test it out myself and to help junior brother Hong correct his mistake. Gowon continued. That I, Gowon, am actually the most powerful. Gowon enunciated every word of his last sentence with extra emphasis while looking at Wang Xian with the utmost dominance. Meanwhile, the crowd of disciples looked upon the domineering Gowon, who was surging with pride, in complete admiration. This should be the dominance expected from the lead disciple of the three major immortal sects. That's right, senior brother Gowon's truly formidable. Just based on this thought of his, that he's unrivaled, it's already something which no one can compare to alone. Truly admirable. The crowd of disciples from the three immortal sects heaved a sigh of envy and self-resignation. During his last two matches in the Grand Disciple Tournament amongst the three immortal sects this time, the opponents proceeded to concede defeat without senior brother Gowon even having to lift a finger. For they knew that they were not his match. And yet, Hong Tianda was now saying that senior brother Gowon was no match for the Dragon King. Hence, Gowon decided to challenge Wang Xian. Such was the dominance and aura from the strongest contender of the current times. If you say you're the most powerful, then so be it, Wang Xian replied to Gowon flatly. He had intended to leave right after entering the Yongchang Cauldron this time and wanted no trouble. He had even less interest in pitting himself against a chap who he could crush as easily as the pinching of his fingers. Ha! Upon seeing the attitude coming from Wang Xian, Gowon frowned. I never admit to being the most powerful through words, but prove it through action. You can test it out yourself if you are unconvinced, Junior. Thereafter, he continued indifferently. And let us see for ourselves what prowess you possess, which gave you the right to be appointed as the default disciple by the Dahong Immortal Sect to enter the Yongchang Cauldron. The crowd laughed in jest as they watched the spectacle, while eyeing Wang Xian with the utmost curiosity. Just you alone have no right to challenge the Dragon King, Roving Sword retorted coldly upon seeing how snobbish Gowon was while speaking to his beloved Dragon King. Chapter 612. He is the Dragon King 3. You? You aren't qualified to challenge the Dragon King. A cold and emotionless voice came from Roving Sword, shocking the crowd on the platform. Gawain was stunned too. He squinted his eyes and turned to face Roving Sword emotionlessly. For a guy who didn't even have the guts to face me in battle, what right do you have to speak before me? Gawain stared at Roving Sword and chided him harshly. Roving Sword, watch your words. Qualified? TSK. What qualifications are needed? The predetermined slots will only be given to young disciples who showed promise, but not so for an expert. An expert wouldn't require this predetermined slot. Just as Gawain completed his words, Jin Jian stared at Wang Xian and mocked harshly. Senior brother Jin is right. The predetermined slots wouldn't be for experts, but for promising disciples. Another supreme talent disciple seconded this. He looked at Roving Sword with contempt before continuing. Moreover, a guy who didn't even dare to face senior brother Go when isn't qualified to say this. How ignorant! Seeing how the situation had developed, Piao Lingxue and Hong Tianda frowned slightly. They had not expected Roving Sword to speak up for the Dragon King. Moreover, his words weren't rational at all. On the other end, Ao Shuwen was pleasantly surprised and watched how things had developed with a smirk. Scram. However, to the astonishment of everyone, Roving Sword's cold and emotionless voice resounded once again. His response of scram instantly dampened the atmosphere. Roving Sword, you better watch your words. For a guy who isn't even qualified to enter the Yongchang Cauldron, how could you even be so arrogant? Jin Jian, who bore a grudge against Roving Sword, remarked harshly. Huh? He isn't qualified? What Jin Jian had said aroused the suspicions of the supreme talents around. That's right. You guys will know in a while. A person who doesn't respect his mentors and doesn't know how to interact with others won't be qualified to enter Yongchang Cauldron. Jin Jian remarked with ridicule while smirking over the treatment of Roving Sword. The immortal slaying sect is right with this decision. Gawain stared plainly at Roving Sword while commenting. Not qualified. Wang Xian frowned slightly. Roving Sword isn't qualified to enter the Yongchang Cauldron. He is the runner-up for the grand contest. Why wouldn't he be qualified? Admitting defeat on his behalf and barring him from entering Yongchang Cauldron subsequently? It seems like the higher management of the immortal slaying sect isn't pleased with Roving Sword. Wang Xian raised an eyebrow and looked at Gawain with a sense of superiority. With an emotionless tone, he said, just scram when we ask you to scram. You guys must be courting your own deaths. When Wang Xian asked him to scram again, anger flashed in the eyes of Gawain. As the strongest disciple of the three immortal sects and the number one disciple for the grand contest, he had already become unhappy when Hong Tianda questioned the legitimacy of his status. Now he was offended consecutively. Anger welled up within him, and he grabbed the long spear behind his back. Wang Xian didn't say a word and only looked at Roving Sword simply. You are the one who's courting your own death, trash.
Dang.
Roving Sword naturally understood what Wang Xian intended. The next instant, he drew the spiritual sword from his scabbard. Great. A piece of trash who didn't even have the guts to fight against me is challenging me now. In that case, I'll show you my real strength and send you rolling off the platform. Seeing Roving Sword draw his sword, Gawain was as cold as ice. Killing intent flashed across his eyes. Dustless sword. Without batting an eye, Roving Sword attacked with the long sword in his hand with unbelievable speed. Gawain was astonished at the speed of Roving Sword. Flames over 100 meters in size were emitted from his body, like a godly fire spear.
Shit.
Move back. The sudden attack of Roving Sword and the release of aura by Gawain shocked the group of supreme talents as they retreated to the side instantly.
Fuck.
What's happening? What's happening? Why are there sudden explosions of terrifying aura from the platform above the peak? Shit. Roving Sword is fighting with senior brother Gowon. Why did they start fighting so suddenly? This, what's happening? Roving Sword didn't admit his defeat willingly? Why would he start a fight now if he felt that he isn't a match for senior brother Gowon previously? The hundreds of thousands of disciples around were shocked to see a battle erupting on the platform above. Why would there be a fight suddenly? Even the elders from the three immortal sects were astonished by what they were seeing. You alone aren't sufficient to be arrogant before the Dragon King. Roving Sword was unmoved in the face of Gowon, who was shrouded in flames that reached over 100 meters. He swung the long sword in his hand, and terrifying metal attribute energy coalesced into a 1,000-meter-long longsword which slashed ahead. What? How could he be capable of such a terrifying attack? Gowon felt fear upon seeing the heart-wrenching energy within the strike which Roving Sword had launched casually. Flaming cage bell, he shouted loudly. The next instant, the flames around him turned golden and formed a dazzling, huge bell around him. The huge bell around him looked extremely tough and thick. Boom. What? However, the terrifying energy of the long sword instantly split the bell the moment it collided with it. What gives you the guts to even be arrogant? Roving Sword moved and appeared before Go when the next instant. Without holding back at all, he lunged forward with the long sword in his hand.
Boom.
Terrifying sword glow fell on Go when, as fear beamed in his eyes.
Boom.
From a height of 1,000 meters, Gowon fell towards the ground at an astonishing speed. The moment he crashed into the ground, a terrifying explosion reverberated across. Cough, cough.
No.
This is impossible. Gowon spat out a huge mouthful of blood. Looking at the protecting spiritual gear on him, his eyes were filled with disbelief, fear, and surprise. If the elders had not admitted my defeat to the referee without informing me, do you think a piece of trash like you would be able to get the first ranking? At this moment, Roving Sword's emotionless voice reverberated throughout the crowd. The entire fight had lasted for at most 5 seconds from the start to the end. Before all the disciples around could react to it, Gowon was defeated. Moreover, his defeat was sealed in 2 moves. Just 2 moves. This made many people unable to believe what they were seeing. Moreover, senior brother Gowon had still been the champion of the grand contest moments ago. He was the strongest disciple of the 3 immortal sects and the entire younger generation. Yet, he was defeated in such a short time without being able to put up any resistance. The contrast was simply too huge. The group of supreme talents in the air stared at senior brother Gowon with disbelief and shock. How can this be possible? How could he be so strong? Roving Sword said moments ago that it was the elders from a mortal slaying sect that admitted his defeat. In other words, it wasn't his own decision. Defeating senior brother Gowon in 2 strikes. Has he reached the half-step to immortal realm? The group of supreme talents were shaken and couldn't help but swallow their saliva in awe. As for the hundreds of thousands of disciples from the 3 immortal sects, they felt as if their world was being thrown into disarray. Chapter 613. He is the Dragon King 4. How's this possible? How could this be? How can he be that powerful? This is madness. It's insane. The stances weren't even this forceful during the spar between Roving Sword and senior brother Hong Tianda. Now how did it? Just earlier, senior brother Roving Sword had said that the elder from a mortal slaying sect had been the one to concede defeat personally by gesturing to the referee. Why would he do that? 2 moves. All it took was 2 mere moves to defeat senior brother Gowon. It was really formidable. The gap is too huge. To think that senior brother Gowon, the invincible one of the young generation, has been defeated so easily. This, the surrounding hundreds of thousands of disciples uttered as they gulped in disbelief, watching senior brother Gowon. He was slowly picking himself up from the ground while recovering from a state of being a mess. This was the #1 senior brother Gowon, champion of a grand tournament. To think that he could not even withstand 2 moves. Just how powerful was the prowess of Roving Sword? This fellow. Meanwhile, the elders from the immortal slaying sect muttered as their group of more than a dozen watched from atop the summit they were at. They all looked on with darkened and awful expressions. But while they were fuming in fury, they were also overwhelmed by shock and trepidation at the same time. Don't tell me he made some breakthroughs in his swordsmanship. How could this be? How long has it been? To think his prowess has developed this much. He's one wicked talent. Given his spiritual equipment and armor, along with his prowess, Gowon is already considered to be at the apex of the budding realm. And yet, he's been defeated in 2 moves. Don't tell me Roving Sword's prowess has already ascended to half-step to immortal realm. That's possible. It appears that he is very likely to reach the immortal realm, even if he doesn't enter the Yongchang Cauldron. The group of elders from the immortal slaying sect spoke as they eyed Roving Sword with the utmost shock and caution. After all, the prowess which the latter displayed had sent them into alarm and frenzy. Wow, if he still isn't allowed into the Yongchang Cauldron given his current prowess, then, the elder from the immortal slaying sect murmured, with a contorted look. The immortal slaying sect had really embarrassed themselves this time around. The approach of Roving Sword was also no doubt a tight slap to the immortal slaying sect. Dragon King. Roving Sword called out. He was checking on Gowon, who was located beneath, before arriving by Wang Xian's side. Oh! Without saying a word, Wang Xian nodded in response as he stood atop the summit, expressionless. To which, Roving Sword also remained silent as he stood behind Wang Xian on his diagonal right. Wang Xian had his reasons for mobilizing Roving Sword and allowing him to defeat Gowon. The immortal slaying sect had forbidden Roving Sword from entering the Yongchang Cauldron, which was somewhat against the rules of the grand tournament. Yet, he had no means of intervention given that this was the decision made by the immortal slaying sect. In that case, he might as well allow Roving Sword to defeat Gowon. With even the champion of the grand tournament of the 3 major immortal sects being unable to make it into the Yongchang Cauldron, it would no doubt place the immortal slaying sect in a difficult position. Perhaps then, through this method, the immortal slaying sect would allow Roving Sword into the Yongchang Cauldron. Tisk, Roving Sword seems to be on rather amicable terms with this Dragon King. Just then, the crowd of outstanding young heroes who had been suspended in midair took in one deep breath as they eyed Wang Xian and Roving Sword, who were on stage with glistening eyes. This Roving Sword seems to be very obedient towards the Dragon King's words. Have you all noticed that he's been standing one step behind the Dragon King throughout these proceedings while paying him due respect? One of the outstanding young heroes looked on at the duo with utter shock as they remained on stage. As of now, the only ones remaining on the stage of the summit were Roving Sword and Wang Xian. As they stood, they gave off a special vibe to the rest who were watching. It was an attitude as though they were invincible. It was an attitude as though they had the world at their feet. His prowess. Jin Jian and Ao Shuwen questioned this with awful expressions as they eyed the duo that was on stage. Seems like Roving Sword is no match for the Dragon King, which explains why he's so respectful towards him. Hong Tianda finally managed a comment after gasping in a deep breath. At the same time, the crowd of outstanding young heroes who were suspended in midair remained silent for a long while. What? All the outstanding young heroes were stunned by the sentence from Hong Tianda as they turned their heads in utter shock. How's that possible? I reckon, with Roving Sword's prowess, even the elders from our immortal sects would be no match for him. How can that Dragon King be even stronger than Roving Sword then? Ao Shuwen rebutted immediately while his face darkened. In my opinion, Roving Sword would be able to handle at least 5 to 6 budding realm experts single-handedly. So, how can that Dragon King be even stronger than him? Don't tell me their prowess has reached half-step to immortality, another young hero questioned with a low growl. He ever defeated me in one move. Hong Tianda replied coolly as he watched Wang Xian with shifting eyes. What defeated you, senior brother Hong, in one move? All the young heroes gasped once again. As they did, they spun their heads about and fixed their gazes upon Wang Xian. Roving Sword was able to defeat senior brother Go when using 2 moves, while the Dragon King was able to take senior brother Hong down in 1. The young heroes had their tongues tied as they gazed at the duo on the stage. The hundreds of thousands of disciples who remained beneath also had their eyes on the duo who remained on stage. Why aren't the other seniors getting up on the summit stage? Some of the disciples muttered under their breath as they watched in confusion. Let's go. After another round of silence, which lasted under a minute, Hong Tianda shifted his stance before leaping gently onto the summit stage. He stood to the side while sweeping his gaze across the duo. Piao Lingxue looked at Wang Xian and still did not walk over to him after some brief contemplation. She felt as though the other party and herself were beings from 2 different worlds. If what Hong Tianda says is true, perhaps then, under some preemptive calculation, the Dragon King and Roving Sword pair are enough to kill 15 experts of the budding realm. Ao Shuwen managed this with a burdened look while his eyes watered. Dear outstanding young heroes, please stand along the aisle. Sect leader Hong Yen will soon present you with your awards. Just then, the voice of an elder from the Yongchang immortal sect could be heard. The various disciples made their way to the fringe of the stage. After having just recovered from their excitement, their eyes were stirring with emotions. To each and every one of the disciples, it was an immense honor to be able to have the grand immortal grace the event in person. Will the immortal appear? Wang Xian asked in mild surprise, but recovered his composure soon after. For he feared no immortal right now. Just then, a commotion was stirring from beneath.
Huh?
It's junior sister Xiao Xiao. It's junior sister Xiao Xiao. The attire on her, though, looks so scary. Such a powerful surge of flames from this attire. It's covered in level 12 spiritual equipment from top to bottom. The crowd of outstanding young heroes said as they looked down. Upon seeing Xiao Xiao, who was emitting holy flames while she flapped her flaming wings, the youths peered at her in envy. Xiao Xiao was decked in spiritual equipment from head to toe, from her earrings, necklace, bangles, shoes, clothes, and wings. I reckon it's the spiritual equipment which His Excellency Huolong has made for junior sister Xiao Xiao. The crowd of youths muttered to themselves while green with envy. Dear senior brothers and sisters, I'm here, Xiao Xiao said in elation as she smiled while glancing over to the crowd who stood on the summit stage. Come over quick, Xiao Xiao. Come on up, junior sister. The group of youths gestured to Xiao Xiao with big smiles. Smiling, she nodded in response before flapping her wings in resemblance to a beautiful and adorable flaming angel. Turning their heads to look up at her, the hundreds of thousands of disciples underneath looked on in complete awe. Some of the male disciples even uttered to themselves, saying that the one who marries her would be able to have it easy for the rest of their life. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.